Good morning, guests. Good morning. We're going to ask you all to please round up your visits with our vendors so we can get started. We welcome you today to the big game. We're winners, all winners for wellness today, and we're going to celebrate that in a beautiful way. We'd like to thank Pastor Hall for allowing this event to take place in this venue. And we're going to have Deaconess Danita Clark come up for opening prayer.
Amen. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let's go before the Lord in prayer. Amen. Just stay where you are right now and let's honor the Lord right now. Let us pray. Oh, wise and eternal Father, oh Lord God, we give you thanks on this blessed day, Lord God. We just lift your name on high, Father God. We thank you, Lord God, for all that you've done for us, Lord. Oh, Father God, this morning we pray that you would forgive us of our sins, Lord God, anything that we've done or said, Father, that was not pleasing to you. Father God, we also ask that you forgive us for not being obedient for the things that you've asked us to do, Lord God. We thank you for all those that are gathered here today. We thank you for all the participants, Lord God. We thank you for the planning, Lord God. And we pray, Lord God, that each and every person will be blessed here today, Father God. That each heart, Lord God, will come to you, Lord God, as we learn how to better take care of the temple, Lord God, that you have given us. Bless this event, Lord God, beyond its preparation, Father God. We give you all the honor, all the glory, and all the praise, Father, because you're so worthy. In the precious name of Jesus Christ, we pray. And let God's people say, Amen. Amen. We'll now have our welcome from our illustrious pastor of New Beginnings Community Church. Amen.
I just want to take this opportunity to let you know how proud and privileged we are to host this for the third year in a row, in partnership with Taking Effective Action under the direction of Reverend Dr. Gertie Hurley. We at New Beginnings have made a commitment that we are going to be a church where faith and fitness converge for the glory of God. And so we are delighted that you're here for this third celebration, and we pray that something will be said or done to enrich you in your walk and making your vessel a strong vessel, a stronger vessel for the glory and honor of God.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Hall. Right now, we're going to get started. We have a welcome. We had the opening prayer. We had the welcome. And now we're going to close the gap. I'm Tammy Cornegay. I'm a local business owner. I'm affiliated with Long Foster Realtors. And we have a lot of vendors around here today that you will get to know as well. So what we're going to do at this time, we're going to have the overview, Close the Gap program by Mrs. Yolanda English.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Yolanda English. I work for Boston Scientific, which is a medical device company, but I work for the Health Equity Initiative. And what my sole job is to help keep you alive. We partner with hospitals, with doctors like Dr. Davison, and we help educate women and people of color as to what their risk factors are, symptoms that they should be aware of. We have a table in the back with some handy information. And you're going to be blessed to hear, of course, Dr. Davison today, who is amazing. She's amazing at breaking down science so that everyone can understand. And not just understand, but hopefully make a change in life. Actually, last year this time, when I did come here, she talked about how even stress can literally harden your arteries. And every time I'm in a stressful situation, I hear her voice. And I know that, no, I gotta reduce it, because even though I'm a vegan and I eat healthy and my numbers are great, stress can actually be a major factor in heart disease as well. So I'm happy to be here, happy to sponsor it, and I'm looking forward to a great day of education and fellowship. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to get ready now for our panel discussion. Okay, so we'll have the panelists come, and have a seat over to the left. Leslie Jefferson. Good morning. Okay. Okay, well, I'll say a few words on behalf of Prince George's County Health Department. I'm so glad to see you all here this morning. I go to a lot of events and I never get tired of going to these events because I feel you can keep learning. There's always something to learn, to be able to take care of ourselves and be healthy and live long, strong lives. So knowledge is power, and what we're here today is to learn the information, take the knowledge in, receive it, and take knowledge to action. Okay? So what does it really take to be healthy? We're going to have our panelists share with us some of their insight. Okay, we're going to start with our panelists, I guess Dr. Henry Wright.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so from your perspective, what does it take to be healthy?
Well, mind, body, and spirit holistically.
My friends, 3 of them, 2 major pastors in the District of Columbia were forced to retire by their congregation because they had massive strokes. These 2 good friends of mine. One, 51 years old, major congregation over in Southeast DC. Now I'm getting back to what does it take. We preachers now, we preach this thing, and yet we're stroking out. We're obese, out of order, standing before you, all big fat stomach way out there, and you keep bringing us sweet potato pies. And then talk about us after we get fat. Let's think about it. The unhealthiest place, one of them, is the church. Serving soul food, which is a code word for high blood pressure food. My wife and I have been back and forth for the last 20 years, vegan, vegetarian, and now just maybe some seafood. But these 2 brothers, one of them was vegan, raw. He went to Kepler's Vegan on H Street. Raw. At all his conventions. And I'm supposed to be here today. I'm supposed to be here. I am supposed to be here today. This thing has messed me up with my friends. It scared me. Because I thought about me, I'm on high blood pressure meds. This brother is a raw vegan, raw, no cooked food, vegan. I see him in all the joints, all the vegan joints. He's strutting around, pimping and profiling, looking good. Doing colonics, all the holistic naturopathic modalities for health. He has, as his doctor, one of the foremost naturopaths in America. But he still had a massive stroke. I went to visit him at GW Hospital. I walked in, he was paralyzed. I'm saying this to the predominantly African American crowd because we are disproportionately the sickest, okay, in the population. So I'm wondering what philosopher? Let medicine be your food and food be medicine. That's a tale. But a lot of people in the vegetarian community, I hang out with them. I was at Everlasting Life last night. I have been going with these, I've been traveling in the health community in the District of Columbia. Very health conscious place in DC. So I called my friend's wife. What happened to him? He was a vegan. He is a vegan right now. Still is. I saw him at Everlasting Life last week. He can't talk. All he can say is, amen, amen, amen. You know what I'm talking about, some of y'all know. She said, my husband would not take his high blood pressure medication. He believed that food would do the job. No, you gotta get your rest. We're overextended. I'm not overextended here today because this is all I'm doing today. Is that all right? Amen. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
And because y'all are so nice, I'm not going to take an offering. I've never seen a crowd like this that doesn't take an offering. So you got to get your rest. What does it take? God gives us 24. You can't cheat God. You can't cheat God. Everybody gets 24. So you're going to max it out, get 3 hours sleep, work 16 hours and all that foolishness. So what does it take to be healthy? A mind, meditation, relaxation, exercise, and diet. And try to keep unforgiveness out of your heart. Things have happened to us, especially us as a people, in this unhealthy culture in which we live in, called the United States of America. Stress from the outside, we respond to it, and it causes us to develop calluses. It causes I see Dr. Davis said, I'm not going to be a doctor here. We got one, a real one. But I'm going to tell you what I know. For all of my 39 years on earth and holding. I said 39 and holding. That's enough. You give a preacher a microphone, forget about it. But I'm going to give it up now. That's enough. Come on, give God. Oh, by the way, my sister, Dr. Early, forced me to come. She's my biggest, my eldest sister. She tells me to boss me around. And even when I was her pastor, she told me what to do.
That's not her.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mike. And it's so important what he said, because when we think about being healthy, we want to think about being healthy when we live, when we work, when we worship, when we play, every aspect of our lives. We want to always think about what steps can we take in this setting to be a healthier version of ourselves. So that story is so telling, because some of us spend a lot of time in church, and when you're in church, afterwards you do want to eat. So there are those temptations, but then there are also those opportunities to use that setting to improve our health. We're going to move forward. We're going to get another perspective and continue our conversation on what does it really take to be healthy. We're going to double back with Dr. Longe.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need the mic.
So good morning, everyone. And yet again, I'd like to say a big thank you to Dr. Early, the Pastor Old, and every member of the team that put this program together. It's a great pleasure to be here. So I'm here representing the Maryland Department of Health, and I was just invited to talk about what does it mean to be healthy. So the first thing I'd like to say is WHO, which is the World Health Organization, defines health. And is defined as the complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just the absence of disease or infirmity. So it's important to put that into perspective, because some people think they're healthy because they do not have any symptoms. They think they're healthy because they haven't been diagnosed with hypertension or something. But it's important to know that it's just a matter of time, and if one continues to have behaviors that are unhealthy, it is eventually going to progress to illness. So a couple of things I just like to mention when we talk about what does it mean to be healthy to you as a person. The first thing that is important is that one needs to be aware of one's medical state, of one's state. You cannot assume that I'm healthy because I haven't had an headache, I don't feel anyhow. A lot of people develop strokes, like the pastor has already said, without any preceding symptoms. It's just been high. They haven't gone for their physical for a couple of years, and it's just sustained high. And then till an event happens, they never knew that that was a situation with them. So it's important to be aware of one's health status. And where does that bring us to? That brings us to the point of going annually. There's the annual checkup. Many of us have insurance. Even for people that do not have insurance, there are things that one can do that can afford one the opportunity of being able to get affordable care. It's important to go every year. Just talking, for example, I've had a couple of people say that they discovered that they had a breast lump for women during their annual checkup. There are things that you as a person, ideally every woman should check themselves, but at times we miss some things and it takes another person to find it out in us. Or because I checked my blood pressure 6 months ago doesn't mean it's still normal. As we get older, things happen. As we get older, our body dynamics change, and then we might not have been hypertensive last year, but that could have happened at this point in time. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of going for an annual checkup at least once a year, and as explained by the physician that one sees. And another thing that is important to do is doing it. You know, we know, many of us here, we already know the theory about it. We know about what it means to get the healthy diet. We know about what kind of exercises we need to do every time. But we need to move beyond the level of knowing. In order to be healthy, we have to move beyond that level of just mental knowledge and actually move into actualizing and practicing all these things. For example, it's as easy as taking walks. 30 minutes every day. Just do it. It's at times you do not feel like doing it, but we need to make it something that we put effort into and we just continue to do it. We just need to do it and we need to be persistent. A lot of these things, we've heard people say that I've tried this diet for a while and then I switched and then I switched it. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how many times you have failed. It just matters the willingness and the desire to continue to practice that behavior that leads you on the path to health. So it's important to be persistent in the place of practicing all the healthy behaviors. So the song says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Not everything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. In that perspective, I'm sure it's about experiences that you've had that make you stronger. But in terms of some behaviors, some health behaviors that people practice, smoking, one of the leading causes of death because it results in a lot of other things. It results in cancers, it results in cardiovascular disease, it results in a lot of other diseases. And people would be like, well, I'm smoking. It's good to cut back, but the important thing is to stop. One needs to stop. So there are some behaviors that is in your hands. You as an individual, me as an individual, we need to make a conscious effort to make sure that we stop doing those things or we start to eat healthy. We already know, so I wouldn't even belabor this discussion about the things that we need to do. We know we need to eat, so we should step back from some kinds of foods. Soul food was something that was mentioned. We know they're not healthy. Our fried chickens, all those things. We love them, but we need to, in order to preserve our health, we need to step back from some things and take on some more healthier alternatives. It's very important to do that. And like I said, we need to continue. And one thing that was defined by the WHO is that health is not merely the absence of disease. So then what does it take to be healthy if I've already developed this condition? Some people are already hypertensive. I think this is like a forum of people that have beliefs, and it's important not to leave everything to belief. I tell people all the time, you do not say because you have faith that you stop using the medications that your physician has prescribed for you. You continue to use all that, you continue to pray, and then when you get to the point where you are checked and everything is normal, the doctor can gradually, at times that would happen, take things up based on the findings when you're examined, when your blood pressure is checked and every other thing. But we shouldn't by ourselves just cease from doing things. So what am I saying? Health is either if you haven't developed the disease, you haven't developed diabetes, you haven't developed hypertension, you haven't developed any of those things. First thing is to prevent it. How do you prevent it? You're exercising, you're not smoking, you're eating right, you're doing all the right things, and then you can prevent disease. If you have developed disease, what do you do? How do you stay healthy? Maintaining your readings, making sure that you do not get to the point where you develop complications. Complications are things like your myocardial, like your heart disease, when people are pain in the chest, and they have heart attack is what we call it, or they develop a stroke, which is a bleed in the brain, or things like that. Those things can be prevented. You might be hypertensive, you might have other comorbid conditions, you might be obese, all those things might be existing. But then what do you do at the point of diagnosis, which is why we have talked initially about the importance of going for your checkups. Now you have been diagnosed, but how do you make sure you do not progress down this line? How do you make sure you do not develop complications? You take your medications, you do everything that has been advised by your physician. And then if you develop complications, there are also things that can be done, working with your doctor to make sure you do not develop any further complications. So at any level, we can keep working and we can all be healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Longe. I think the takeaway from that is we have to be proactive. We have to do something, and in the self-management classes that we have in the community with the health department, we do what's called an action plan, and that action plan is very specific toward a health goal. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? What time? What day? And that's how specific we have to be when we're working on our health. We have to be proactive, but we have to have an action plan that's very specific and goal-oriented. Okay? So we're going to move on, and we're going to continue our discussion. What does it really take to be healthy? And we're going to hear from Miss Leslie Jefferson.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Leslie, and I am a nutritionist with Giant. Giant has 10 in-store nutritionists all around the Washington, D.C. and Virginia area. And we offer one-on-one consultations for lifestyle and nutrition information. So when I heard the question, I was like, wow, that's a really big, broad question. Too many things to take into consideration at one time. That's probably one of the biggest things about being healthy is that we try to do too much at one time. You got the stress, you got the food, you got the this, you got, oh, I got to go to the doctor. It's a lot. It's a lot. So what I say to people is pick one thing. You gotta start somewhere. Focus on that one thing. My thing is food. I love food, I love to eat. Right? We all love to eat. Soul food, Chinese food, regular food, American food, Wendy's, McDonald's. We all have our thing. Nutrition for real life. We're busy. We're sitting in traffic. We're stressed at work. All of that comes into play when it comes to health. But as an individual adult person, you have to take responsibility for your health. You have to take responsibility for those stressors in life. Pick your battles, pick your boundaries, and start sticking to them. Decide where you want to start change. Change is hard. If you've been eating a certain way, and culturally we've been eating a certain way for a very long time, it does not change overnight. Vegan, pescatarian, vegetarian, keep it simple. Make half your plate vegetables. Pick a boundary area for yourself. One thing. I have a little chart over there that you can use. I think I brought enough. Now that I'm calling it out. But it has a checklist. It's like 40 things to do to be healthy and lose weight. 40 things. So you try to do 40 things all at one time, what's going to stick? Nothing. Then you're back to right where you started from. Pick one thing. Drink more water. Exercise more. I'm going to try and do the 30 minutes of walking. I'm going to sit, I'm going to meditate. Pick one thing. Make sure that one thing kind of sticks with you for a couple of weeks and it becomes a habit. Make it a habit. Then move to another thing. Because one change behavior will roll into another behavior. And it'll happen automatically. And before you know it, you'll be like, hey, I wasn't doing that before, but now I'm doing it. Or this wasn't like this for me before, but now it is. I feel different. The body is wise, and it'll tell you where you need to go. Follow that direction. Pick one thing. Broad. What does it take to be healthy? And it's different for me, for you. All of us have different goals. Now, if you need help with that, you can come see me. You can come talk to your pastor. You can speak to your physician. You can come speak to your therapist. So these modalities are all here to support you in making change so that change sticks. I could go into my spiel about carbohydrates and why you shouldn't eat them and how much fat and all of that. Pick one thing. One thing. Now, I do have a class. I spoke to some ladies. I have 4 spots left. 4 spots. Take some action. We're about taking action. Health department has classes. You know how many classes are around this area that are empty? Empty. Everybody wants to be healthy, but nobody wants to come and learn how to do it. Like, I've had classes empty. Nobody came to my party. I was sad. We know. We know. We know. We have the classes. The information is out there. You have to take the initiative. You have to be an adult. And you have to say, okay, what's the most important thing for me? What's important for me? What's important for me? And especially, I'm calling out the ladies. What is important for us? We do so much for others. And then by the time we have to turn around, we're sick and they're doing their thing. So ladies, let's take care of the business. Pick one thing, one thing. Everybody write something down. Going back to the action plan. Everybody write one thing down, and then you stick with that. Thanks.
Okay, so what better takeaway message than to pick one thing? That's very specific. We all have to start somewhere, but do something, pick one thing. So thank you for that. And I'll just say a quick note on healthy eating. And I think what we hear a lot, the challenges people have with starting to attack kind of an eating plan is that people feel, unlike other, diseases or conditions, you have to eat. So, and if I eat, I want it to taste good. And a lot of times when people feel they have to change, they feel deprived. Like something is going to be taken away from me and I have to do something undesirable that I don't want to do. But we do have to change our mindset and think about what the goal is. We want to be around longer. We want to enjoy our friends and family and be able to fellowship and learn more and move more. So we do have to kind of look at the goal and then kind of bring our thoughts back to this supports me reaching that goal. Okay? And because we deal with the mind, body, spirit, when we're on this path, next we're going to hear from Miss Angela Wright.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thinking about what it takes to be healthy from a mental health perspective, I want to jump on to what the doctor said about awareness. We're humans. As humans, we go through life. We have ups and downs. We go through traumas. We have grief. We have a lot of unresolved issues. So the awareness of how are we dealing with our life is really important in mental health. It's an important factor in your health. Holding on to unresolved grief, holding on to unresolved trauma causes somatic symptoms, which are physical symptoms. So those are the migraines, those are the digestion issues that sometimes happen with stress, with trauma. And so us understanding that maybe I went through something and something's going on with me. I need some support in dealing with this. I need some support in letting this thing go. So we need that awareness in how we're handling things and how our body is feeling in order to even know that we need something. And after we get that awareness, we need humility. We need to be able to say, it's okay that I need help dealing with some of these symptoms. I need more than just a grandma's advice and my auntie's advice. I need a professional to help me with different interventions on how I can alleviate the stress, how I can reorganize my life, how I can let go of this loss that I've had. When we can't see, we don't have the same guilt or shame of going to the eye doctor. We get cute lenses, we have glasses, we go back for follow-ups, we make sure we get our appointment cards. But when it comes to mental health, sometimes there's a stigma on, is there a deficiency with me because I'm not processing this correctly? And that's not true. The way we take vitamins, the way we go to the doctor, the way we take care of our hair, our nails, our body, you take care of your mental health as well. It's not anything is wrong with me. It's not, oh my gosh, something's wrong with them, they're crazy. That's not it at all. You're seeking a professional in their area of expertise. If you want braces, if you want straighter teeth, you're not going to go, talk to the people at the barbershop. You're going to go get, get an oral exam, get your braces, whether it's Invisalign or, get colors and rubber bands. You're going to take care of that need with the specialist who knows those interventions. So awareness and humility is so important in dealing with your mental health. It is not something that you're not doing right. It's let me seek a professional's advice, even if it's a consultation before you choose to engage in ongoing therapy so you have the right fit. Sometimes you don't have the right fit, and it's important that you build a trusting relationship with your therapist. It's important that you feel that they understand your needs. That's the work there has to be done so that they can understand where you're coming from. That you don't feel that you're judged, that you feel like confidentiality is being kept. So search around, look for practitioners. There's so many in this area. There are practitioners online now, so if you want to stay in your home, you can do web-based, phone-based, but awareness and humility are the two biggest things that I can think of for mental health about how to stay healthy. We need to know that we need some extra support. We need to know that, let me talk to someone, a professional about this piece. I've talked to my family about it. Sometimes when you talk to your family, you don't get that confidentiality. You told your aunt, next thing you know, your whole family's bringing it up to you, trying to give you different ideas about that one conversation you had. So talk to someone where there's safety in that relationship, there's safety in those conversations, where you can be vulnerable in a different way so that that work can be done. We're human. We go through things. Life happens to us. And so it's so important to understand that our mental health is just as important as our physical health, and that that holistic approach all comes together. I've had clients where we have to first touch on some religious pieces because, I can't talk about my depressive symptoms because that means that that's not of God, and I can't even go there. So we have to first address that. So there's so many different pieces that touch on your mental health. So we have to talk about, how can we still use your religion as a strength? How can we still pray as one of the interventions that we're using to help you get out of bed and to help you move on with your day? Your mental health impacts your relationships, personal, professional. It impacts how you view yourself. It impacts how you navigate the world. So why not take care of something that touches on your entire life? I think everyone should have a therapist. Everyone needs that safety place, that place where you can just be you and discuss what's going on with yourself. Because unresolved issues do lead to other symptoms. It will spill over. It will spill over in your physical health. It will spill over in your career, where you're sending irritable emails, or you're not as pleasant around your colleagues. So it will come out in other ways. So would you rather address it in a safe place, or would you rather have it spill out? Because that is sometimes what often happens with people anywhere. But please, take care of yourself. It's so important, and it's not a deficiency. The way you take vitamins, the way you navigate life, you take care of your mental health. There are professionals who are trained for this, and they want to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. And it's true, our moods and thoughts play such an important part in who we are and what we do. And a lot of times we're so busy that we just keep pushing things down and push it down. And you know what happens. One day, some trigger
it just blows. So we do have to take care, of ourselves, of our mind, of our body. Sometimes we take better care of our car or our vehicle than we do of our bodies and our minds. So we have to kind of get in that mindset. Don't treat your car and take care of your car better than you take care of your body. Okay, our bodies are vessels. So we do have to do better. When we know better, we do better. So let's take these words that we have had today, and they're all here for additional resources. And I'll do a little plug on Prince George's County Health Department. We have some information at the table to the left on some upcoming programs on nutrition education, and we have a diabetes self-management workshop that starts actually next Wednesday. So we do want to offer all of these resources to you to support you in your journey. Thank you.
I'm gonna ask you all, did you all enjoy all of that good information? I know I did. Thank you all so much. I promise I'm gonna try to do better. It's just one day at a time with these things. So what we're gonna do now is open up our panelists for questions. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, we're gonna start here.
Can you tell us, I go to Giant all the time, I've never seen anything advertised about nutrition classes. And then how can people know about all the services that the health department has? So that I've never, again, knew that you had all those classes.
For Giant, at Giant, we have information on our website, and then we also have information. Now, there are 170 Giants. Okay. There are 10 nutritionists. Let's do some math. Right. So we don't have classes in every single store. We rotate our classes, and generally by the pharmacy, there'll be a class listing. Then I'm located in the Glenridge Giant, kind of 450 Hyattsville, New Carrollton area. So I put class information there. We also list the classes on our website. So, if there is some, you have to say, hey, look, there's classes. So there's signs, but most of the time I've watched this. People take their carts and they roll right by the sign, even though I have a list of classes there. And then people will say, they'll stand right by my sign and they'll say, hey, do you have any classes? And I'll say, sure, here's a whole brochure full of classes. Oh, I didn't know that was there. So it is, like a partnership. You have to kind of look. I'm happy to tell you, that's why I'm here. And we have classes. I have class listing on my table of the diabetes care classes and heart health classes that we have. And I have my own personal diabetes prevention class that we're doing. And I have 4 spots left, 4 spots for the diabetes prevention class. I got some takers in the back, So yeah, so that's kind of how you have to find out. And I'm sure the website for the health department has information, and Trina will tell you more about that.
Similar to the health department, we have the classes on our website. Now, we'll admit they're working on the website because I think you have to do a few click-throughs to get to that section, but it is with our chronic disease program, the Health and Wellness Division at the Health Department. And if you visit the website, you will get to either my name, Trina Frazier, or Gil Douglas's name. We try to do commercials, we try to do programming in different parts of the county, but Prince George's County is a large county, so sometimes we're in one particular area and then we move to another area. So simultaneously, we're not throughout the county, but we do move the programming to different parts of the county. I have flyers and information at this table on the left, or you can sign our sign-in sheet, and we can put you on our email list and let you know all upcoming programs. Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. We have a question over here.
Hi, good morning. My question is to the young lady right here, Ms. Gray, when you were talking about living well. My question is, how do you, what steps can you take to manage living well when you have a pre-existing condition and the medications that you're on cause weight gain? I'm eating right, you know, I'm doing, you know, I lost 20 pounds and I haven't lost any more since then. So I did everything that they told me to do. You know, I'm starting back walking and water aerobics, but because I have a pre-existing health condition that requires certain types of medicine, it causes weight gain. So how do I, like, what else could I do to get the weight off and keep it off?
So thank you for that question. And regarding when one needs to use medications that cause weight gain, it's important to discuss with your doctor if there are alternatives to the medication
That would equally be effective. If there are no alternatives, then it's just important to keep doing what you do. Keep eating right, you said you're already doing that. Keep exercising, keep doing all those things. Because they help. Even if you do not see that remarkable drastic change, it still helps. You know, we talk about strengthening exercises and a couple of other things. So it's not just, when you do exercises, it's not just about the weight loss is important, but it also strengthens other things. It strengthens you as a whole. So it's important to keep doing those things. If it's about medications, you might want to see if there's an alternative. But if not, we understand that there are some side effects that are related to some medications that one needs to use. And it's just important to keep doing what you do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Hello, anybody that probably could answer this. It's very confusing when you hear vegetarian then vegan. I'm confused the difference between both of them because one person will say vegetarian but they eat this, another person say vegan but you might see something that. So can you explain the difference between vegetarian and vegan, please?
Let me jump on that because I've been one.
Thank you. I've done this for 10 years. I was vegetarian, which means eat vegetables, but of course you need your protein, so there'd be either tofu or tempeh or something you need. When I first went vegetarian, I thought vegetarian meant all vegetables. So after about maybe 3 or 4 days eating, nobody coached me, nobody taught me. I just thought being a vegetarian meant just that, vegetables. After 4 days, I was so weak I could not get out of bed. And one of my members, who's a vegetarian at church, said, "Oh, Pastor, you gotta eat some protein." She said, "You get a veggie patty at Giant or Safeway." Well, Safeway is unsafe way because of the stuff they serve. But anyway, Giant is the place to go. But give me a discount on that. But I didn't know that. It doesn't. You got to have some protein for energy and strength. Okay. When I then I started having energy once I did that. I had to have some protein, not just vegetables, plant-based, but protein plant-based. Protein. Okay. Now, when I went vegan, that means no animal at all. When I was vegetarian, I could do cheese, dairy, milk, butter, and the like. Vegan means no animal at all. So I've been doing vegan now for 3 weeks because because I do that. I go back and forth, back and forth. For the vegan people, such as Dr. Davidson and my sister, Dr. Hurley, I'm not a vegan. I do vegan, back and forth, back and forth. Very little animal. But vegan means no animal product at all in your food. Nothing that derives from an animal. Now let the real vegan folk talk now.
Okay, there's different types of vegetarians, right? There are those that don't eat dairy. There are those that eat the vegetables, and then they may have some soy products in their diet. You have vegan. They don't eat anything with a face. That's the easy way to kind of think about that. Then you have people who only eat fish, pescatarians. So they may eat vegetables and fish. So that's a pescatarian. Then you have people like me, I'm a flexitarian. I eat a little bit of everything. Most of us fall into that category. Flexitarian. So you could be a flexitarian because you sometimes only have a you have a meatless Monday, right? You have a meatless Monday, and then maybe you have, meat the next day, and then maybe you have like a dairy-based meal another day without anything with a face, without flesh, right? So there are different ways that you can do this, but one thing, if you're going to do this, and I know there's a lot of this, and I've had a lot of people come to my office that were sick because they just all of a sudden saw, what the hell, and they said, I'm going to be a vegan. You need to look at that and attack that in a very careful way. Just as mentioned, couldn't get out of bed because it is important to have protein. So please, please, please speak to your physician first before you decide to make this change. Then come in and see a nutritionist because it is not something that you should take lightly. The body does need certain nutrients, and when you just say, I'm just going to eat broccoli all day and pineapple, that is not going to work. So see your physician first, have a conversation about making that change, and then see a nutritionist. You can come see me, or not, someone else, but about how to make that change.
Okay, we want to thank our panelists for all the wonderful information. And also we want to applaud the young lady over here in the red who had the question earlier who lost the 20 pounds. That's you. Keep going, just keep going and get the right help. That's what we encourage, and if anyone else in here have had a similar journey, we applaud you as well. So we're going to get going now. We thank our journalists. Our next phase, we're going to get warmed up a little bit. Who's ready to get warmed up? Okay, we're going to have our certified personal trainer come up. Richard. He's a certified, is it Richard? Richard Gunter. He's a certified personal trainer with Ortis Fit. So he's going to get us all warmed up for good health.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We got 15 minutes, good nice 5-10 minute warm up, and if you don't mind, I'm going to say a little 2 cents my perspective on well-being I'd like to share with y'all too as well. So I'd like for everyone to do, please stand up for me. Don't worry, oh, I hear all these grunts going on. Okay, great. So first we're gonna do, we'll start on just march in place for me, okay? I know kind of limited space for the chairs, so you can turn sideways a little bit, okay? All right, good. We're gonna do this for 30 seconds. Nice, that's why you get the arms moving too, that'd be nice as well. Get the arms moving, great. Also keep the core tight, keep the stomach tight as well, okay? Next, we're gonna do some little cardio boxing. Okay.
If I can see me, we're gonna step to the side, we're gonna punch the opposite direction, okay? We're gonna alternate, okay? Make sure you breathe out a little bit. There you go, don't try to punch nobody now. All right, reach, good, reach. There you go, nice. Keep it up. You got another 10 seconds, okay? Good. All right, y'all keep on doing. I'm gonna demonstrate the next move we're gonna do. From here, we're gonna do a squat, and we're gonna press up, raising the roof up, okay? Like Sunday morning, okay? Raise the roof up, Pastor. Keep it up, keep it up. Now, if you got knee pains and joint pains, those halfway down. If y'all don't have no joint pains, get the butt parallel to the ground and come up. All right. Shoulder width apart, good. Keep the legs shoulder width apart. Next, we're gonna do jabs, okay? This punch, this punch. This punch. Make sure don't punch somebody. This punch. This punch. This punch. This punch. This punch. Now we're gonna add some little squats to it now. Just slow, up and down. Up and down. There we go. There we go. Nice, nice. Try to keep the chest up. Don't bend over for me, okay? Good. Good. Nice. Another 10 seconds. Another 10 seconds. I like everybody's presentation going on. I love it. I love it. All right, now side to side. Let's wave. 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 Good. Good. See a bunch of smiles. Nobody breathing hard. That's good. Nice. Nice. All right, next we'll do knee to elbows. Keep on doing it. I'm going to demonstrate. I'll let you know when to go. So from here, we'll roll across. Like standard crunch.
I know how to do it.
Knee to elbows. Opposite.
I do it in gym.
Left elbow, right knee. There you go. Good, good, good. Nice. Just switch to the side. Switch to the side. So now we got a right elbow to a left knee. There you go. Keep it up. Squeeze the abdominals. Squeeze the abdominals. Good, good. Now it's working place. Everybody doing okay? Yeah. Good. No. All right. Next, we're gonna do stand crunches again. We'll do the same side instead of opposite direction. So from here, we'll do our left elbow to our left knee. Now. Okay? You're going to bring it down. Don't pull your head down. Don't cheat. You're going to use the core, okay? Good. Make sure, breathe out. Breathe out. Good. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this. Y'all enjoying it? Yeah. Don't lie now. Remember, we're on church property. Switch. Squeeze. Squeeze it down. Squeeze it down. Good. 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 Now march in place. So from here, I'm just going to turn sideways and I'm going to demonstrate the next workout. You're going to have your elbows up. We're going to triceps. Going over your head. Just like this. Good. Make sure to stand up straight. Got a little too much neck movement going on over here. Good, good, good. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Nice. Now we go down, biceps. Squeeze. Like flex them arms. Come on, show me the muscles.
Oh,
there you go, squeeze. Squeeze.
I did
Good.
it last night.
Good.
And I stayed up. It was fun.
Nice. Enjoying this, enjoying this. All right. Got another 10 seconds of this. Good. Good. Ready to do some push-ups?
Yes.
Okay? So from here, what I want you to do is the arms, the hands be outside your chest, and you're coming on squeeze. 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 Good. Good. Also want to keep the stomach in place if you can. Squeeze. Squeeze.
This actually feels good.
Squeeze going out, in. Out, in. Nice. Nice. Any burning going on?
Yeah.
All right. All right, march in place again. The arms moving. The arms moving. All right, next, let's see, lady. We're going to do seated squats. So it's pretty much sitting down and back up. So now butt touch. What's wrong? You do bad knees or? Well, that's how you doing it actually. Trust me. You sit down. You sit down, right? Oh, you sit down, right? You sit down, right? That's all you doing. Sit it down and pop it up. Use your hands. You want to sit down? You ready to sit down? Sit down. Chair. So I gotta wait for her. Be careful. And back out. Okay? No, take your time. Hold on. We're gonna do by count. Because everybody I see out here, like has joint pains. This is actually really good for knees. Okay? When you don't work, yes. Usually your joint pains, you have restricted blood flow because arthritis. Okay? By that, in order to get the blood flow to soothe it, you gotta work it out. Okay? So with these seated squats, I'm not gonna rush through it because I hear you and other people have knee pains. But we're gonna go through this workout though because it's actually beneficial. I want y'all to take your time. You shoot for a total of 14. Okay? And actually, we're gonna do it together. Okay? We're not gonna rush through this, okay? So everybody stand back up. Okay? Down, sit down. Take your time. Up. Down. So don't worry about counting out because you don't want the trainer to count. Because that was one. When everybody come up, I want y'all to count. So we want 3, right? All right. 3. 1. Down. Up. 4. Down. Up. 5. 14. Down. Up. 6. Down. Up. 7. Down. Up. 8. Down. Up. 9. Down. Up. 10. We'll say it for more. Down. Up. 11. Down. Up. 12. Good. Down.
It's like zombies of numbers.
Down. Okay, pop back up. 14.
Alright, so we can sit down and like I said, I just want to listen 2 minutes at a time. How was that? Okay. Was some people uncomfortable of these workouts? No. Okay. That's good. The reason I brought that up, like I said, based off my what I do with my clients is a lot of people want to make changes in their life, but they don't want to step out their comfort zone. 9 or 10 times in life, just in general, in order to better yourself, you got to step outside the comfort zone. Is either with the pastor, hey, we got any new guests here, they want to be saved. I was shook, like, I want to, but by me standing up and walking to the pastor and, announcing my life to Christ, it made a big difference in my life, with school, getting my degree, it was going through, it was optional to go to college, but it was very uncomfortable at times, but it's paying off for me. Same thing with health and fitness. Eating the healthy foods. I know some of the foods are not the best in the world when it comes to taste. It's not sweet, but it's benefits. Okay, and of course we're working out too as well. The whole sweating, the whole being pain, I want to blow my hair out, It makes a difference, it makes dividends, it pays a long way, okay? So you gotta get out of that comfort zone to make a difference. Also, resources. I know with the panel to discuss about the whole nutrition, which is a big, now when it comes to making change in life. However though, you gotta put in work when it comes to exercise, okay? Exercise goes a long way, not only for the health, not only to build your well-being, but also your body mechanics. With the lady, a couple of y'all having the joint pains. When you don't do proper strength training, it can lead to joint pains, it can lead to muscle balance, it can lead to injuries. Most of the trainers, not all, but like myself, I do a holistic approach. I'm not only focused on your goals, because everybody will look good. The guys want to have the nice tightest shirts. You know, I don't gotta go like small. You know, the females want to have the nice body, want to look good. But when you have joint pains, you can't leave that out. You can't leave that out because the older you get, it's gonna get worse. You know, I'm 34, and I got through some injuries I'm going through right now. Okay, but I'm taking care of it right now though, because the older I get, I won't be able to walk. I still won't be able to squat, blood parallel to the ground. You know, I don't be hunching over. You know, I tell my mom she eats good, but she always tells me how much she's in pain. You know, when it comes to with her, particularly her knees. And I tell my mom, I gotta do strength training. So exercises like that, the squatting up and down, lunges on the wall. You know, taking the wall to position you, and you know, just doing that goes a long way as well. So just be mindful. You know, you want to look good. You know, take care of your biomechanics of your body. Okay, it pays a long way. You know, and it's cheap. You want to pay for these these painkillers. You know, don't pay for these braces. You know, 'cause all it does is doesn't fix the problem at all. Yeah, definitely makes it worse. Okay, and as y'all know, we do have a high epidemic going on in the U.S. when it comes to painkillers. You know, so, and then another thing I just want to touch, which is kind of, it's not touchy, but it's going to hit home. Especially, majority of us in here are African American. If you go to the cancer disease website, they're saying over 80% of cancer disease are related to your environment, what you put in your food, what you eat, what you put in your body, and such. Okay. Most cancer diseases, the top ones, I'm not gonna list them all, but African Americans, we take over the top of everything, lungs, breast. You know, I actually just lost like 3 years ago from breast cancer. And through that time, it will probably, we don't know if it changed or not, but she definitely told me in her last days that if she make it through, she want to better her lifestyle. Like she vowed to me like, no, I want to start working out, I want to start eating good. And that's a power impact to me because she knew that the environment could contribute to where she's at. Okay? So we got to put together, you know, we have plenty of resources with the panels, list resources. I'm not saying hire me, but you know, we got trainers available. We got YouTube videos. Also, group trainers are offering a free boot camp class. Okay, and I gotta leave out after this prior obligations, but I will leave a sign-up sheet. Okay, a free boot camp class. Okay, it's in Upper Marlboro, 1030. Just sign up for it, I'll shoot you more information. And also that we're doing the boot camp class because we're offering a podcast. Free resources offered to better your well-being. Okay, it should be no reason why I can't take advantage of this. Okay, should be no excuse. Okay, I'm here to help out any way as possible. I'm not asking for service. I do offer it, but I'm not answering. You know, the reason why I'm in this position because I like to help people. I like to help my brothers and sisters out to better their lives. And I'm willing to work for anybody. People's out, I'm on a budget. Okay, we'll work something out. There's ways around it. Like I create an online program, can't provide personal, okay. Tips, stuff, I can provide that. Okay, so take advantage. Get out that comfort zone. Make a difference in your life. Mentally, spiritually, physically, okay, that all comes together. You can't have this one another. This can't. Okay, so thank you for the time, and love y'all. God bless y'all.
Thank you so much. Rashawn, are you still at Planet Fitness in Fort Washington, or?
So I'm a freelance trainer. Okay, so I do in-home service. My business is kind of blowing up. I'm probably gonna limit that service, and I'm actually doing online training. I will pass some flyers out and business cards if you want to look to online training. That's it, we got a bootcamp class, and I freelance. I do come to your homes. Planet Fitness, I'm a Black Card member. I could travel any Planet Fitness, and I can bring you in if you don't have a membership. Also, I do have a studio I'm working on in Waldorf and at the National Harbor. That's going to be up and running hopefully in a month. But technically, guys, I got my station there, so I'm a freelance. But I will pass information out. Contact me. Is anybody can help you out with online training or home service? Like I said, home service and home training is probably pretty much about to be limited because I'm kind of spreading thin right now. So, but anyway, I can help y'all. I will pass flyers out and contact me, okay?
Thank you. Okay, you've heard a lot of good information, right? So we're at halftime now, so what you want to do is really think about what you can adopt for yourself and just start. Pick one thing, just one thing. Like they said, don't rush yourself. But right now we're going to do the halftime and we want you to Dr. Patricia Davison is an MD cardiologist at MedStar Washington Hospital Center.
I'm going to take the prerogative right now to, while people are coming around, to comment on this morning's session, which was excellent. One of the examples of the pastor who went to the naturopathic doctor and was a vegan, but didn't take his blood pressure medicine. Yes, we can lower our blood pressure by different foods like hibiscus tea and beet juice and blueberry juice and things like that. That may be true. Weight loss is probably your best way of doing it, and exercise is another best way of doing it. But if you're unable, anything you're unable to achieve in terms of your risk factors, then you need to take the medication because we have strong data. I know you don't trust the pharmaceutical industry, and with good reason, but the problem is that we have some really good data on what those medicines do. And just about all of the medicines that you hear for cardiovascular health, that if you have a side effect, the side effects are reversible, but your heart attack and your stroke is not. So that you don't need to fear that people say, what if I stay on the medicine for the rest of my life? Well, we've shown that staying on the medicine for the rest of your life does reduce your mortality and your heart attack and your stroke. So that's very, very important not to fear the medication. If you have a side effect to the medicine, then you need to move on to a different drug because we only have, there have to be at least 1,000 drugs in cardiovascular medicine. You have to pick 3 things actually. There are 3 things that you can do to reduce 80% of your cardiovascular and cerebrovascular death rate and your cancer death rate for that matter. And that is stay thin, not smoke, and walk. And that's all you really have to do to prevent 80% of the diseases they get you. We don't have a lot of control over the cancers because we don't control our environment and all the carcinogens that the government won't allow us to publicize and try to hide. But in terms of 80% of the things that we die from, it's going to be from cardiovascular and cerebrovascular accidents. And that is all really preventable. And it's preventable by staying thin, not smoking, and walking. And that will end up overcoming most of the diseases that you have. And in terms of the mental health that was said earlier, since we stay under stress as African Americans so much, there is a chemical reaction that actually takes place when you stay under stress. It does affect the cells called the platelet cells. They become inactive, or hyperactive, I should say, and they cause clotting of the bloodstream. And it also causes plaque formation as well because you end up with a whole inflammatory response that takes place. So there's a lot of very negative things and a lot of constriction of your vessels. So I wanted to comment, that was an excellent panel in terms of how you need to stay healthy. So I'm going to move these slides along. Okay. I always like to start in a church setting. I always like to start with this because I know that you all don't want to leave here as simpletons, but in Proverbs 27, verse 12, a prudent person foresees the danger ahead and takes precautions, and the simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. So nobody wants to leave here a simpleton, and that's why you're here today. The simpletons are still outside. The rest of you all are here because you're prudent and you want to learn. And this is significant because you're here on a beautiful day, one of the last beautiful days of the summer, spring, fall season. And you're here because you really want to understand. And you need to recognize that when Dr. Hurley puts these events on, she's trying to prevent your event. Because this is the major killer of everybody in this room. And it is all totally preventable. So that if you learn what the disease is and how you can prevent it, then there's no possible reason why you should end up with your heart attack and a stroke, which the majority of Americans are going to end up with. Now, atherosclerosis is the disease we call hardening of the arteries. That is the disease that kills most Americans, all right? All Americans, both genders and all Americans. And when you were born, your artery is supposed to be nice and pink on the inside, and the artery wall is a muscle, and inside of the muscle are all kinds of 10-syllable words that are enzymes and hormones that open your artery up and constrict your artery when bad conditions are around, like stress. And so your goal in life is to keep the good hormones and enzymes up and to keep the bad ones suppressed. And if you can't keep the bad ones suppressed, then you end up forming cholesterol plaque in your arteries. Now this is what your artery is supposed to look like when you're born. A nice, beautiful muscle pink on the inside. Then as by the time you're 10, your cholesterol plaque begins to form in your artery wall. And then depending upon the lifestyle you lead, more cholesterol plaque begins to build up in your artery. And then when you have your event, your artery has collapsed in the area of that cholesterol plaque. It is constricted. And because of stress, because of whatever may have happened, and the artery clamped down on itself right where that cholesterol plaque was, and the blood oozed out. Now in this artery, the artery is not totally closed, and then you have a partial event, what we call a TIA, a transient ischemic attack in the brain, or an acute coronary syndrome in the heart. When it totally closes, it's a stroke and a heart attack. And when you totally close off your artery, you actually have dead muscle. And we actually have tests to show us that there's dead muscle. Like the MRI of the brain will show dead muscle. That the heart muscle, like the sonogram of the heart, the echocardiogram, will show walls that are not moving. That is dead tissue. And so your goal is to get to the hospital before that artery is totally closed. Now if you chew an aspirin when you think you're having an event, then you hopefully will end up with an artery that looks like this, where there's still a little bit of flow, and they have time to treat you by the time you get to the hospital, and you don't totally close off the artery. That's why they tell you to chew an aspirin. So atherosclerosis is preventable. It's not a natural process of aging. So when you die of your heart attack and your stroke, you get that wonderful funeral that you're going to have because you didn't die from AIDS or syphilis or something else. This was totally preventable because it was not a natural process of aging. It was a process of you not respecting your temple and preventing disease. And so this is all about respecting your temple and preventing disease. And if you do that, then you shouldn't end up with those kinds of events. And most importantly, it's reversible if you do end up with it. Now the onset is in the fetal state if your mother has a cholesterol when she's carrying you. Otherwise it begins in the first decade of life if you're eating the American diet. Now the first signs that your arteries are clogging is erectile dysfunction. So you know you cannot watch a single TV show without an ad for erectile dysfunction. That's how common it is. Now the arteries that lead down to the pelvis are as small as the arteries that lead to the heart. So those are the arteries that clog first. The arteries that lead to your neck are the size of your little finger, and the arteries that lead down to your leg are the size of your thumb. So therefore you have more heart attacks and erectile dysfunction, neck strokes, and then last, loss of limb, all based on the size of the artery. Now, we've learned this in the last decade that, and you probably want to say that you all know somebody who went to the doctor one week, had totally normal heart test, and then they died of a heart attack the next week. That's because the plaque that ruptures and causes a heart attack or a stroke is not the plaque that's been there for 50 years and is really hard and calcified and stable. It's the plaque that's just beginning to form. And we cannot find that on any of the tests that we do. It's a little fatty streak. It's still soft and just a thin film of fat. If we put dye in this artery that you see up on the screen, it's going to look nice and big. So an angiogram won't show it because the artery is nice and big. We can't do anything with it because we certainly aren't going to do an angioplasty and balloon it open and put a stent in it because it's big and wide open. It's not causing you any symptoms because it's big and wide open. If you do one of those CAT scans with the calcium scoring, this is not calcified yet. It's not even picked up. So you can still even have a 0 calcium score on your CAT scan because it's not calcified yet. So you have plaque that is new and soft, and that's the plaque that's going to end up rupturing. So if your artery clamps down on itself right where that soft plaque is, that's the plaque that's going to cause the heart attack or the stroke. And that's why your tests can all be normal. So when you go in for tests and they happen to be normal, your solution is not to head to McDonald's because you have a normal heart. Your solution is then to look at all of your risk factors and then start reversing the risk factors so that you can end up stabilizing and reversing this plaque and preventing more plaque from forming. So a heart attack is a bruise on the muscle wall. It's called a MI for short, or myocardial infarction, and that's when the coronary arteries, those are the 2 arteries that lead to your heart, are totally clogged. That's different from congestive heart failure, which is the #1 discharge diagnosis in America. That's when your body becomes congested, so that you end up with fluid in your legs, fluid in your abdomen, fluid on your lungs, and you're short of breath, and you can barely move. And you see people all over town. You see people trying to get around just like that, because it is the most common disease we now have in America, because we're able to keep people alive after their heart attacks and expand their life, so they end up with congestive heart failure. So the heart is already damaged and is unable to pump efficiently, so as a result, blood ends up staying out in your limbs and in your abdomen, because with every heartbeat, your heart is supposed to circulate, all your blood is supposed to circulate with every single heartbeat. So your total blood volume is supposed to go through your heart with that split second. And if it's unable to do that because your heart is damaged from a heart attack, then the blood ends up staying out there. Now the difference is that the most common cause of congestive heart failure in African Americans is actually uncontrolled blood pressure, in which the heart muscle is so thick that it doesn't relax properly. So not only can a heart attack with damaged muscle cause congestive heart failure, it is very common for high blood pressure, uncontrolled, and a thick heart muscle to not be able to allow the heart to relax properly to cause congestive heart failure. So all of this you see is totally preventable. So this means that your doctor and you have not worked aggressively to prevent the most common discharge diagnosis, which is congestive heart failure. So that if you controlled your blood pressure, if you didn't have a heart attack, you wouldn't end up with congestive heart failure. Now, who is at risk of having clogged arteries? Anyone who eats animals every day is not going to have a normal artery. Anybody who has a body mass index of over 25 is not going to have a normal artery. Anybody with a bad LDL cholesterol of over 100 can't have a normal artery. Anybody with a systolic blood pressure, that's the top number, of over 120 can't have a normal artery. Anybody with a fasting blood sugar of over 100 can't have a normal artery. Anybody who doesn't exercise and get the benefit of the endorphins that open up and keep the artery clean can't have a normal artery. Anybody who smokes can't have a normal artery. Anybody who has an inflammatory process like poor oral hygiene, arthritis, chronic infections of the prostate, the pelvis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, all those things, cannot have normal arteries. So this represents the majority of people in America. So that you know that you will not have normal arteries if you have any of these risks. These are called risk factors. These are the things that clog up your artery. So now you have to work to prevent. You see, everything up here is preventable, except maybe you can't control things like collagen, connective tissue diseases like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, but everything else up here is totally preventable. Now, the biggest issue is even though the disease is the same for everybody, the death rate is not. And that's because some people get prevented at a much more aggressive rate or participate in prevention at a more aggressive rate. People get diagnosed differently and people get treated differently. So when we look at the death rate from heart disease as it relates to African American women, it is the highest and the greatest disparity exists among African American women. We are the least likely to be diagnosed and treated and the least likely to be prevented, as opposed to that of everyone else. Now, Asian women are the healthiest people in America, primarily because they stay thin and they don't smoke. That's all they had to do. I don't know if they walk or not, but they stay thin and they don't smoke. And that's all they had to do to be the healthiest people in America. Their men smoke, so they've lost that benefit. So that now in terms of Latinos and Native Americans, they're just not counted. Because if there's not something about them that makes you know that they're Native American or Latino, then they don't get counted at all. So those numbers are inaccurate, because if you actually count them in their own population, especially Mexican Americans, they have just as many risk factors as African American women. And then of course we have white women, which come next. So, and when you look at the men, white men have the lowest mortality because they're the ones who were in all of the initial trials. They were the only people who were in all of the earlier trials that your taxpaying dollars paid for. They are the people who are treated the most aggressively. They're the people who are prevented, and they are the people that we spend all of our money and our time on. African American men have the highest mortality. You see everybody else is clumped up there together in terms of the people in the society that have been ignored. Years ago, before 1980, we didn't even think women had heart disease because we weren't studying them. Women were not allowed in the studies that were being done because we had hormones, and they thought it would mess up all the studies. It took an act of Congress to put a women's health initiative together so that no studies can now be done by the NIH or government funds without everybody in the population who has the disease participating in that study, so we have information on all those people. Now let's talk in depth about risk factors. I'm going to make them very simple. Your blood pressure needs to be 120 over 80. I could have put a more complicated slide. I could have said type 1, type 2, and type 3. You don't need to know all of that. You just need to know that if your blood pressure is over 120 and over 80, you're forming plaque. Just because we don't give you a pill when you're 130 over 90, doesn't mean you don't have hypertension, and it doesn't mean that you're not forming plaque. The concept of borderline and pre, I like to tell people that's like the first trimester of pregnancy, and you know how that turns out. So that even though we don't give you a pill, it doesn't mean you don't have the disease, and it doesn't mean you're not forming plaque. So you need to know that those are the numbers you need to have. And we've had a lot of debate over that. You hear about all the studies on TV all the time, but you need to recognize that a more recent trial came out called the SPRINT trial. And they compared people at 120 to 140. Now we don't treat you between 120 and 140. We tell you that you can change your lifestyle. So, and you think that you go around saying that I only have borderline, I'm only pre, I'm not really hypertensive. So if you have a blood pressure running 130 to 140, you see that you have a big difference in the amount of stroke, heart attack, and heart failure and the death rate. So that if you stay at 120, you have a 1/3 reduction in heart attack, stroke, and heart failure, and a 25% reduction in mortality. So when somebody says you're borderline, that just means you're going to have more heart attacks, strokes, and death. We don't have to have a pill for everything. And you need to recognize that every pound that you lose is worth 2 millimeters of mercury, and vice versa. So all you have to do is lose 5 pounds. So say, for instance, you're 130. We're not going to treat you. You could lose 5 pounds, and you'd be 120. Even if you're 140, we don't have to rush and treat you. You could lose 10 pounds, and you'd be 120. So the point is that we don't have to always give you a pill initially, because we would hope that you would change your lifestyle and not need the pill. But it doesn't mean you're not forming plaque during that time that you're trying to think about changing your lifestyle. And we all know that you've heard about this over and over again on TV and different places about the DASH diet, that this was a simple diet that the NIH did a massive national trial on, and all you had to do was have a diet rich in fruit, vegetables, low-fat dairy, and low salt, and you could substantially reduce your blood pressure. So anything can reduce your blood pressure. Prayer, meditation, walking, weight loss, all those things. So that the pastor he was correct in that he was trying to do all of those things in his lifestyle, but he failed to lower his blood pressure still, and that could have been the stress of being in the congregation. But the point is that he did not get to 120, and that's why he still had the stroke. So even after you do all of this thing, and your heart and your lifestyle is so stressful that you can't bring it down, because stress constricts your arteries and drives up your blood pressure. So even if you can't do it, then you better be on some kind of medicine in order to help you do it. And I always put this slide in, I make it simple. We could talk about, there's lots of debate over whether you should have 1 gram or 2 gram or 1,500, and you never know what that means and how many teaspoons and all that type of thing. You just need to know that in order to stay within a range that is safe for your heart, is that salt does not belong on the kitchen table. It belongs in the garage for your next snowstorm and in your bathroom for a sore throat. And if you don't add any extra salt to your food, you know that it will not have a negative impact on your blood pressure. And since there's probably no, is there anybody in here who has no family history of hypertension? Okay, no hands went up. So we all have a family history and a genetic predisposition. So when you put a salt shaker on your table, then all you're doing is driving your children into hypertension and heart attack, strokes, and early death. And then you're all going to ask me, what about Himalayan salt and sea salt? Now this is the food industry trying to confuse you, so that they let you think that if you climb the Himalayan mountains and bring down the salt, that sodium chloride is somehow better for you than the salt that comes from the mine, or that if they go out and get it from the ocean, then that sodium chloride is better for you than the salt that comes from someplace else, all right? So salt is a chemical, it's sodium chloride. And as a result, it drives up your blood pressure by constricting your vessels. It has a chemical reaction and it has a chemical reaction on your kidneys, which drive up certain hormones that cause constriction of your blood vessels and drive up your blood pressure. So there's sodium chloride in all of the food that you eat. There's a lot of sodium chloride in celery. So everything you eat has to have sodium chloride in it. Just like everything you eat has sugar in it. So that God put all that in your food. It was man that made the decision to put more sugar and salt in the food because it makes it more addicting and makes you eat more of it. So it's sort of like, what is it? What's the potato chips in the little tube? They say you can't eat just one, and that's real. You can't eat just one. Have you ever had baked potato chips without salt? No. Everybody said no. Well, you would probably only eat one. So that's the difference. So they know that by changing the food to the point that it is addicting, you'll eat more of it. And they also, by the way, you need to know there's something called the bliss point, where they actually hire people that they give all these different kinds of combinations of the product to, and then when all the people say, this is the one, we can't have just one, that's the one they produce. So they deliberately make the food addicting for you. And caffeine is another addicting substance. So that you all sit up there as good Christians eating all those powdery white substances all day long, and then you're maligning all the people who eat those illegal powdery white substances, but there's not as many people dying from cocaine as salt and sugar, correct? So who should be maligning who? And then we have the biggest issue that happens to us as we age, especially when we reach menopause, and men when they reach that, it's not called menopause, but when you see the pot belly, what that means is that you've reached an age where your metabolism is slow and all your fat is forming around your abdomen. When that happens, it forms around the organs that are inside your abdomen, and it causes something called insulin resistance, and you start knocking off the cells that produce insulin. And so that's what causes the diabetes that is now epidemic in this country. So you need to make sure that your waist size is not in that range. And the range we're talking about, and this is another one of those pre-diabetic terms called metabolic syndrome, nice fancy term. You are still forming plaque when you are in the so-called pre-diabetic or metabolic syndrome stage, which you stay in about 10 years before we actually treat you for diabetes. So by the time you actually get treated for diabetes, you cannot have normal arteries. Because diabetes is so destructive to your artery wall, or I should say an elevated blood sugar of over 100 is so destructive to the artery wall that by the time you're diagnosed, you cannot have normal arteries. So diabetes is a heart disease, just by definition. And so that if you want to prevent it, you have to keep your waist size. And by the way, we have different waist sizes based on data that they looked at around the world, that women of color have to be a waist size of no more than 31.5 and men of color 37. Whereas Europeans can be 35 and 40. So this says that you have to be thinner than Europeans, unlike the myth that you think you're supposed to be. You think you're big boned, you think you're supposed to have bigger hips, and your bones, look at the wrist, your wrist size tells you what kind of bone you have, but none of y'all have big wrists. Okay, that's fat that you're looking at when you say that you're big boned. So that whole concept that you're supposed to be big boned and have more weight is a myth, because you will end up having diabetes at a lower body mass index than Europeans have. And that's for all women of color, because they looked at women in India and in Africa, all over the world, and they have found that those women end up having diabetes at a much lower body weight than European women. And so if you have a big waist size and your fasting blood sugar is over 100 and your cholesterol and blood pressure up, you're in that so-called pre-diabetic state, or what I call the first trimester of pregnancy, and you know how that turns out. So diabetics cannot have normal arteries by definition, because you've spent 10 years in elevated blood sugars before we end up treating you, and then your arteries are clogging all during that time. So the other thing that you have to recognize, that all diabetics have, because they all have abnormal arteries, they all should be on a cholesterol drug called a statin. And ideally, their bad cholesterol should be under 70. And let's look at weight. If your body mass index is over 25, it's very simple. You're going to end up dying from your weight, because you will increase your heart attack, your stroke, your diabetes, your hypertension, and your cancer. And these are the complications of being overweight. You will have more strokes, coronary artery disease, diabetes, hypertension, gallbladder disease, arthritis, gout, deep vein thrombosis, venous stasis, cancer of the breast, colon, uterus, pancreas, kidney, prostate, sleep apnea, fatty liver, and reproductive abnormalities like polycystic ovarian disease, infertility, and abnormal menses. And you also will have structural changes on your heart. We now know that when you are overweight, you will have the same changes that you have when you have hypertension, because you're putting too much pressure on the heart. The upper chamber is going to get large, the left ventricle, the lower chamber is going to become thick, and you're going to have more of that abnormal heart rhythm called atrial fibrillation, just from being overweight. So fat is a metabolically active tissue that attacks every organ in your body. So it is not a benign disease about how, you should be able to look like what you want to look like and all that type of thing. It's about, you can look like what you want to look like, but you will pay a consequence, because fat will knock out every single organ in your body. And who is overweight in this country? Mostly African American women and Mexican American women, with Asian women being the thinnest. So as a result, they have the least amount of disease. And this is what we have to watch out for. We have too many people in all of our magazines and all that trying to celebrate it. They say it's the full figure revolution. If you've got it, flaunt it. And all we're flaunting is the highest death rate from heart disease in the world. And actually, this area, by the way, has the highest death rate from heart disease in the country, and that ends up being the highest in the world. So how are we going to prevent it? Can you turn the disease back? Yes, you can. Walking 30 minutes a day is a 50% reduction in heart attack, stroke, and cancer, and the more you do it, the greater your benefit. And the things that you do to prevent heart disease and stroke also prevent cancer. And nutrition, you are what you eat. So you need to recognize, this is really confusing, forget total cholesterol, all right? It is not a total of the things that you see on your lab. It's the bad cholesterol is what you need to know. It's called bad because it's going to kill you. That's all you need to remember. So that we used to say 130 was okay, 160 was okay based on really old data from drugs that could not get us much below 130. And so we said 130 must be okay because that's how low the drugs are able to get us. But when the newer statins came on the scene and were able to get us to under 100 and under 70, we saw tremendous changes. If you get to under 70, you can actually show reversal in plaque. Reversal. So we talk about, can you reverse the disease? Yes. If you get your bad cholesterol low enough, you will have reversal of your disease. So nobody should have an LDL of over 20. So if you get your lab from Quest, and you're going to say, oh, look, you know how you all go on your portal and you say, oh, look, I can be 130. 130 is the average heart attack and stroke in this country, and 130 is the average LDL. And Quest Lab has on it 130 is a normal LDL. So you decide what kind of cholesterol you want to have. So ideally you want to be under 70. You were born with 30, and the closer you get to 30, the better you can be. It's going to be very hard for you to get down there if you're eating animals. It's practically impossible for you to be down there at that range. You also need to understand where it comes from. Every living cell is made up of cholesterol. You are a living cell, and you are made up of cholesterol. Your liver is made to metabolize your cholesterol. So that when you dump all that other cholesterol in your liver goes on strike and says, I worked enough for today, I metabolized what I was supposed to metabolize, I'm not metabolizing anymore, and the rest of it just flows through your artery wall, forming plaque, because it's excess. And so you have to look at your lab, and if your lab is over 100, your liver's on strike. So you have to make a decision. What are you going to do? Are you going to reduce the amount of animals you eat? Are you going to go on medicine? Now, some people prefer to go on medicine so they can still go to Ruth risk, and that's fine. But the point is that they're eliminating the risk factor. It doesn't matter how they do it. And you also need to recognize that everybody has all this hoopla about statins and everything. Statins are life-saving. So if you're unable to give up whatever it is that you need to give up to get your LDL to under 100, and you enjoy what you're eating, then you have to make a choice between the heart attack and the stroke and the medication. And that's what it comes down to. And as I said, cholesterol only comes from animals. And sometimes you can have a genetic defect. If you have a genetic defect, then changing your diet, even becoming a vegan, is not going to help you. So that's the person that has to be on a statin. Now this is why statins are life-saving, because you have all of these things. You see all those 10 and 5-syllable words that are fancy up there? They knock out those kinds of cells. They decrease the inflammation, they stabilize the plaque, and they reverse the plaque. They don't just lower the number, they actually reverse and stabilize plaque and prevent heart attacks and strokes. And that has been well documented in multiple trials worldwide. So that all that you hear about, oh, statins are so terrible, if you have a side effect from a statin, then you have to try, there's 8 of them, you try one of the others, and if you have a side effect from all 8 statins, then you just have to sit there and wait for your heart attack and your stroke. It's as simple as that. So if you're unable to do it with your diet. So that you can listen to all that stuff that you hear on the web and the YouTube and everything, but if you don't get your LDL down, you will die from your plaque. So you have to get rid of plaque, that's all there is to it. You can't keep plaque in your arteries and expect not to have a consequence to it. So if you can't do it with your diet, you have to do it with a statin. We have 2 other drugs that are not statins, but are weak. One is called Zetia, another one is called Welchol. They're very, very weak, but it still means you could try them and see if you can get another few points down. But the point is that if you don't get your cholesterol down well under 100, and even if you're under 100, 10% of people with heart attacks and strokes still have heart attacks and strokes with LDLs of under 100. So that, if you can't get your cholesterol down, you have to find a way to do that, or you're waiting for your event. And this is where your protein comes from. It comes from beans, which include the soybean as tofu, animal products, dairy, and meat. And you have to pick the lowest cholesterol. You're going to eat an animal, you do the animals that fly and swim, because the animals that walk on land and walk on the bottom of the sea are highest in cholesterol because they're more complicated and have more cells. And most of the cells are on the skin. So therefore, you take the skin off of an animal that flies or swims, you have a relatively low cholesterol animal. So you have to make those choices. And you cannot eat an animal every time you eat and expect to have your arteries clear of cholesterol. Color code your food. Green food is low in sugar and high in nutrients. Red, yellow, and orange food is high in sugar, but also high in nutrients. White food is refined, high in sugar, and low in nutrients. You should not be eating anything white. Cauliflower doesn't count, it's beige. I know somebody's going to say, well, cauliflower, that's highly nutritional. So if it's been refined, it has no nutrition, and all it has done is made somebody a billionaire. So that's your white bread, your white rice, your white everything, all those things that they produce on the market and have made all this money and it sits on the shelf. All that starch that we eat. And they have made us think that we're supposed to have a starch with every meal. So the food industry, you think that what you're eating is cultural, but the food industry has put that culture into your mind. So that, look at things like Easter. You associate Easter with ham and chocolate, do you not? What has that got to do with the crucifixion? Was there ham and chocolate associated with the crucifixion? So who do you think put that in your mind? So you would never do Easter without ham and chocolate, right? And even the church gives it out. The church has chocolate bunnies and little baskets that they give all the kids. So everybody associates. It has nothing to do with the crucifixion. What does gluttony have to do with the nativity scene? Was there any gluttony in the nativity scene? The people couldn't even afford to go to a hotel. And so you're sitting up there having this gluttonous meal because the food industry has encouraged you to eat this 7-course meal, sit there for 12 hours watching the game and being gluttonous all day, and you think that's part of your culture. But it's not. The food and everything that you eat, the food industry made you think that that was part of your culture. And then you end up doing that. So they have convinced you of that. And you need to recognize they have all the advertising industry. They have psychologists that sit down and figure out what you will be inclined to do. The alcohol industry does the same thing. The smoking industry does the same thing. And they've all done those little things in order to convince you to do something that is dangerous for your health. So that if you are Christians, you should be praying on the fact that you want to be able to overcome what the food industry and the advertising industry and all of those people who are only out to make money for themselves and do not care about the health of this nation. So you should be able to overcome those kinds of behaviors. And you see, just because it's legal and socially acceptable, you have embraced it. And so you all say, as good Christians, you stay away from all the illegal stuff, but then you end up embracing all the legal stuff, which is way deadlier than any of the illegal stuff because, you know, like I said, how many people die from crack and how many people die from salt and sugar? All right, so you have to look at those kind of things. Somebody has convinced you you need salt and sugar and caffeine in everything that you eat. And so you need to start saying you only put something in your body if it prevents a disease. If it causes a disease, it was not meant for human consumption. And you can pray all you want over your food. But God doesn't save you from that. And I remember once I gave a lecture at a church, and the pastor got up at the end and she said, I want to make a correction. Once you pray, and by the way, there was a Chick-fil-A banner at the back of the church, and she said to me, she said, I want to make a slight correction, that once you pray on the food, it's okay. All right? I'm sorry, once you pray over your food, and it's pork, and it's filled with all kinds of chemicals, and it's filled with nitrates, you will still end up with cancer from all that processed food. I'm sorry, God doesn't say, well, I'm not going to give the Christians cancer, and I'm not going to give the Christians heart attacks and stroke. You have to remember that man made that food, and you have to be able to resist it with your knowledge that says, this food is not meant for human consumption, and I'm not going to make these people rich. And I'm glad you had Giant here, because this is a perfect example. When you walk into a Giant, all the food, and you live in the South, so you have something that nobody else in the world has, that you have the same food year-round, even if it's seasonal. You can buy a $1 mango in Giant in the middle of December. Mangoes are produced in March. And at the end of the March, they're gone. You get mangoes in the middle of December. Everybody else in the world has to eat them in March. Period. March 1 to maybe March 30th. That's it. And you get mangoes year-round. So everybody comes, wherever the food is being produced, Giant brings it in and has it laid out for you. You have no reason to go away from the outside aisles. The only reason you go into the inside aisles is to buy your Tide and your Crest and your deodorant and all of that, your shampoo. There is no food that should be purchased on the inside aisles. Because if it's in a package with a label on the side with 10-syllable words that you can't pronounce it inside of it, it was not meant for human consumption. You have all that fresh food on the outside year-round, the exact same food. They may not have pomegranates year-round, they may not have bok choy year-round, but other than that, everything else you get year-round. And so there's absolutely no reason for you to be eating anything else but what's on the outside aisle, and you leave everything on the inside for your toiletries and things like that and your paper products. And then you will know that you will be eating healthy. So you live in the South, and you have all these stores out there, and they all have the same produce. So every single store, look at how many grocery stores you have. And you have something that the rest of the world does not have. And yet we have the highest death rate from heart disease. But we have something that the rest of the world can't even get. And so, I mean, think about that. That's that gluttony that somebody convinced you to do. So you end up eating everything in a package, everything that's processed, and then it was food that's not meant for human consumption. So if you have risk factors, then you're not respecting your temple. So you need to work to get rid of your risk factors. If you can't get rid of them naturally, then you need to be on the medicine until you're able to change your lifestyle to get rid of them. But you should not have risk factors. Otherwise, you have made that choice to have those risk factors. And so that's why you should be reversing it. And what are the difference in symptoms? A chest pain is not the only symptom. You may get fatigue, chest, you may get back pain, shortness of breath is dyspnea. And women tend to have those symptoms more than men have it. And partially that's because we don't exercise. You know we stop exercising. Black women stop exercising in the 9th grade. There's already been studies on that. Because you know that's when we start going to the hairdresser. So we're not spending $120 on a hair and then going swimming. And you know you all give your daughters those excuses from swimming class, right? And so all those kinds of things. And so the point is that we stop exercising in the 9th grade, so we don't get to have chest pain because we end up having fatigue and shortness of breath because we don't exercise enough to even get to the point of chest pain. So all these are symptoms. So if you're tired, and I always like to say, what is your favorite store? Like say your Lord & Taylor was your favorite store, Macy's, and you used to shop there for 5-10 hours in a day, and you spend the whole day in the store and in the mall, and now you don't feel like going shopping, you got heart disease, your arteries are clogged. You're not getting enough blood to your heart. So you need to be studied. So that is fatigue. So that's the kind of thing that you have to look for. And we have to recognize that there's a significant bias in who gets studied and who does not. If you have heart disease, especially if you have a heart attack, you have to go to the lab. Now that's pretty common that everybody gets treated that way, but it's all those other people in between. So if you're having lots of symptoms, then they do need to take you to the lab and do an angiogram, where they put dye in your arteries, and then if you have a significant clog, and they have to prove that it's a significant clog before they open it up. And they open it up with a balloon, and they smash open that nasty cholesterol plaque and put a stent in. You hear me say smash? So what do you think happens to something you smash open in your body? You end up with scar tissue. So that's not like everybody's proud, they had a stent, I got a stent. All right, no, you have scarring now inside your artery wall. You have to be on lots of medicine that if you abruptly stop, you end up closing up the artery immediately and having a heart attack. So that's not a panacea. And so in order for you, who should get an angioplasty? This is very important. You have to be symptomatic, number one, meaning having chest pain. The artery has to be over 70% closed. There has to be proof that the artery is causing the symptoms. We have a number of tests that do that. And it will not prevent heart attack or death. Be very clear on that. Because remember what I said, the artery that causes the heart attack is the one that's barely formed? The one that they're going to open up is the one that's been there for 50 years and is calcified. And so we have to tell you also that this is not going to prevent a heart attack or a stroke. I mean, a heart attack or death. Because opening up that artery will not do that. It just makes you less symptomatic. And so that's what we have to do now. The less significantly clogged arteries, we now will know we can reverse. So that person has to go on aspirin, they have to go on 2 antiplatelet drugs. One is called Belinta, one is called Plavix, one is called Effiant, and you have to be on 2 antiplatelet drugs for a whole year to keep that open. And if you have to go to emergency surgery, you're at risk of having an acute heart attack when you abruptly stop those 2 drugs. And you have to be on a statin to get your LDL to under 70. So it's not a panacea. So that you need to recognize that your goal is to prevent it and reverse it. And if you can't do, if you don't qualify for an angioplasty, it's bypass surgery because you have too many arteries clogged. So I'm going to end with this because you are looking at a lethal weapon, and the fact is that more people die by the fork than any other weapon because they filled it up with high fat, high cholesterol foods that cause an increase in heart attacks and strokes. So the next time you pick up one of these, make sure you use it for self-defense and not self-destruction.
Okay, we're going to take just a few questions for Dr. Davidson. Does anyone have a question?
If you have those symptoms and you go to a specialist, a cardiologist, like I did, and everything was okay, the stress, I have to be careful of the stress, he said.
When you say everything was okay, what test did they do?
They went through.
So you had the angiogram?
Yeah, I had the angiogram. I had go under the, I kind of understand how like you go into a machine, and they take pictures of your heart, they give you guidance, you die.
Correct.
I had all of that done, and my arteries were clear, as good as the doctor just said, that I have to avoid stress. So my question is, after you had those tests, should you be going to a cardiologist every year to check yourself?
Okay, that's a very good question. That was back to this slide. Okay, so she was the person that did not have the 70% clog. Now you may have, did they tell you you had a little bit of clogs? Okay, so she had clean arteries. Remember we said that it now doesn't mean that your arteries are totally clean, right?
Right.
Because you still,
Except there might be little specks.
oh, all right.
Yeah.
The little specks that cause heart attacks, right?
Yeah.
So she had early plaque. She did not have significantly clogged plaque. So that's the plaque that I showed you in the earlier slides, where you have a little bit of plaque. That's the one that's going to cause a heart attack. So what you have to do is start looking at every single one of your risk factors. So your LDL should be under 70, you should be on a statin, you should be on aspirin, you should have a blood pressure of 120, you've got to get your weight off, your sugar needs to be under 100. So those are all of the things that you have to do to keep from having a heart attack and stabilize your plaque. Now you said, should you go to a cardiologist? If your internist is not an aggressive person about getting rid of your risk factors, then you need to be with a cardiologist. It does. You need to be with somebody that's going to make sure that all your risk factors are, and you need to look at, do you know what your LDL is even?
I just had a test and it was under 100, like the doctor said it was good.
Okay, so
I take a statin.
you take a statin, so you're doing the right thing. So if somebody's doing the right thing for you, then you don't necessarily have to have a cardiologist. But you need to make sure that somebody's being aggressive about reversing all your risk factors. Because the statin is stabilizing those little specks that are going to rupture and cause a heart attack. They stabilize that and reverse it. That was a good question.
Do we have someone with another question?
Did I understand you to say that EKG, you can determine if you have plaque from EKG?
Definitely not. You can determine practically nothing from an EKG.
Okay, my question was, can you determine if you have plaque from your EKG?
No, an EKG looks at your heart rhythm. So if you have a heart block and need a pacemaker, it will determine that. If you are in the throes of a heart attack, there is a classic particular pattern that an EKG will show, where it's called the ST segment elevation, where the last segment of you have a QRS complex, you have a P wave, a QRS complex, and a T wave. So we call it a ST segment elevation, where the last segment is really, really high, indicating that you have total closure of your artery, and that person is supposed to bypass the emergency room and go straight to the lab to have that artery open, because your artery needs to be open in 90 minutes to prevent loss of muscle. So the EKG, that's the only time the EKG has a benefit, is for determining an ST segment elevation, MI, or determining a heart block in which you need to have a pacemaker. Otherwise, now that's all we had 100 years ago. So otherwise, it doesn't tell you a whole lot, even though we do it in everybody. It's only $25. We do it in everybody on all your routine physicals. That's fine. You can't go to surgery without it, and the anesthesiologist wants to see it say normal. But it does not tell you that you have clogged arteries, and it doesn't tell you that you don't have clogged arteries. So your risk factors will tell you that, and your symptoms, and then you shouldn't just be going on and getting studies. If you have risk factors without symptoms, you just work on reversing your risk factors. All right, so your goal, now some people want to get the CAT scan with the coronary score, which insurance company won't pay for, because insurance company will not allow you to just go around looking for things, because you're not going to treat that. But if you do get one of those things and you want to pay for it, it's about $400 or $500, sometimes it's $600. You can pay for that, and then if you do have plaque, and I have several patients who did do that, and I put them as a result, even though they didn't have really high cholesterol, I ended up putting them on a statin to get them down to under 70 as a result. So, but it is not allowable as routine screening procedures. The insurance companies will not allow that.
Okay, we'll take one more question. This young lady here.
for my sugars, I try to use the 25 grams a day as my standard. But
25 grams on what? You mean adding 25 grams?
no, just 25 grams. in
Reading it
general.
on the label?
Right, right. But I don't pay attention to my fruit. I eat fruit morning, noon, and night with the exception of bananas.
Fruit is
So how should
extremely
I-
high in sugar. So if you have an issue with your sugar, you really should be focusing on berries and maybe green apples. Fruit is extremely high, so if you're overweight or your sugar is an issue, then you really have to start cutting down on the amount of fruit that you're taking in. But she said she's doing 25 grams, you mean you're reading labels. That means you're buying fruit that's in boxes.
Not, I mean, I stay away from the white sugars and all of that. That's
No,
what
but you're saying 25 grams, and you know how many grams of sugar it is because you're buying something in a box. So I'm saying you're supposed to be trying to use your food should be fresh. It should be primarily green vegetables, and your brightly colored vegetables in moderation because they're high in sugar, and staying away from as much sugar as you can possibly stay away from, especially as you age, because it's going to, after menopause, it's going to be very hard to keep your weight off. It really, really is very, very hard. I know one summer I just started eating all this wonderful fruit. It was cheap, it was fresh, it was everything. And I went and did a blood test and my triglyceride level was up. That's an indication of your sugar level. And I said, oh, I gotta cut this out. And started going back to my berries and green apples. So you can look at your numbers to see what's going on. You can do an A1C, your doctor probably does one. That's 4 months of average sugar. And if it's above 5.6, then you are eating too much sugar in the form of sugar that comes in the food that you eat. So green vegetables have the lowest amount of sugar, the brightly colored have more, and then fruit is extremely high in sugar. So you have to be very, very careful about those kinds of things. And all your breads and grains, I know everybody thinks they're supposed to have a starch. No, you're not. The food industry thinks you're supposed to have a starch in every meal, okay? You don't need all that bread and rice and potatoes and all that. Start eliminating that. You now saw there's cauliflower, mashed potatoes and rice, and there's bean pastas now. So there's all those kind of things. Giant used to sell, is our nutritionist here? Giant used to sell bean pasta, and then the company was bought over by somebody, and I haven't seen them restart reselling it again, but there is a bean pasta that you should encourage your Giant to start selling again, because somebody bought the company and repackaged it. So you really need to start getting away from all that wheat and the rice and everything, and start finding quinoa, which you had today in the meal on the Giant table. Quinoa is a high protein grain. So start looking for other things other than the things that are just really high in starch. So do quinoa and things like that, as opposed to doing all that rice and wheat and things like that. And do the bean pastas and the cauliflower, mashed potatoes and things like that. So the food industry is catching up because they realize they can charge more money for those things. And so they have all of that out there now. So there's alternatives for everything now. So you really just need to start looking for it and start changing your taste buds and finding other things to eat. Because remember, who gave you that? You have to remember who gave it to you. That came from the food industry. So you can change your taste buds, you can change everything, the seasoning. There's a whole row of seasoning in every supermarket. Salt is not the only seasoning that there is. There's other things that you can start, you just change your taste. And once you get rid of sugar, sugar is a serious addiction. When you try to come off of sugar, you're going to behave just like a crack addict. You're going to get irritable and jittery and yelling at everybody and angry all the time. And you're going to behave the same way as somebody coming off of crack. And so you need to start weaning yourself off of sugar, and then you won't have all those cravings. Sugar drives up your sugar in 2 hours, and that's why they make sugar as part of the breakfast. Donuts and bagels and all that sugary stuff, orange juice. They said that the orange juice industry is being destroyed because of Irma. That's the greatest thing that can happen to America. And so all of that orange juice and all that sugar. And so in 2 hours, you need to have a coffee break. Didn't the food industry say you need a coffee break? Then they have all kinds of stuff for coffee break because your sugar's plummeting. Then you go to lunch. Then you got to have a 2-hour coffee break again because everything is sugar, sugar all day long. And they know that. And so Americans eat all day long as a result of that. Every event that you go to, they have food associated, don't they? Yeah. Ball games are hot dogs, and movies are popcorn, and The Super Bowl is nachos and chicken wings, and who do you think you think that's part of your culture, don't you? Who do you think made you think about you every time you have a Super Bowl, you think nachos and chicken wings, do you not? I mean, so they have made you associate food. You can't even go to the candy center. They have Skittles and things that don't make a mess on the furniture. So I mean, there's food. You can't even go to the candy center, to opera, and then you go outside and they're selling food to you. So I mean, so they try to make you eat all day long, and that's the food industry trying to make money off. So you need to start trying to wean yourself. I always tell people, when you always have your prayer partners, and you think you're going to drive into Popeyes, that's when you should be calling your prayer partner. And you ask them to pray you away from that parking lot, and you just keep going down that road. You just keep going down the road, and if you see a McDonald's, you call them up again, and you say you need a prayer, and just keep going on down the road till you get to something healthy. Till you get, what is that? What's the place on at Hampton Mall? Until you can get yourself over to Hampton Mall. All right. So I'm just saying, but it's about self-discipline. And about recognizing where your messages came from and how dangerous those messages really were. Because they were not thinking about the health of this country when they did all the things that they did.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Davidson. We truly appreciate the wealth of information. Thank you so much. If you all want to ask Dr. Davidson questions one-on-one, feel free to do so after the program. She'll be around for after the program, so you can ask her questions one-on-one. Next, we're going to be tackling another issue, which is oppression in the food system. We have a special guest here, former NFL player, Mr. David Carter.
But she keeps me alive. She's the beast in my bones. She gets everything she wants when she gets me alone, like it's nothing. She got two little horns and they give me a little bit.
Alright, so my name is David Carter. In social media world, I go by the 300-pound vegan. I'm not 300 pounds anymore. I used to be when I played in the NFL. And so I played defense and So I played for the Dallas Cowboys, the Arizona Cardinals, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yeah, so like I said, I was 300 pounds. In the NFL, I played defensive tackle. And, you know, I started eating meat like everybody else. As a matter of fact, my family owned a barbecue restaurant in Los Angeles. So that's pretty much short of living in a butcher shop, pretty much. And, you know, it's like, so eating meat was a really huge part of my life. You know, I grew up, my family used to have a huge deep freezer and we would fill it up every 6 months. I have a brother and he plays football as well. So we competed in absolutely everything from sports and especially eating, like, oh man, my plate's bigger than yours, bro. No, my plate's bigger than yours. So, and it worked for us. You know, we both got really big. You know, I was 305 pounds going into the NFL. My brother, he plays in the NFL, plays for the Redskins right now. And, you know, and like I said, it worked for us. We got to be big and strong. But, you can hit the next slide, bro. But after a while, you know, it started to take its toll on me. You know, I was playing my position, playing at my weight, but I was starting to come down with all these illnesses, these old man illnesses is what I like to call them. I was dealing with high blood pressure, tendinitis, muscle fatigue, numbness in my right hand. I couldn't feel half of my right hand. They had a huge brace on me to prevent my hand from hyperextending. I couldn't put my pinky finger, ring finger, and the middle finger in half of my right hand. I had high blood pressure. I was only, the numbers are a little bit off, but I was 23 years old taking high blood pressure medication as an NFL player. And as an NFL player, you're supposed to be one of the top athletes in the world. You know, like, people look up to you as a specimen of health. But I'm taking high blood pressure medication at 23. And then early onset, I just started having, it was hard for me to like hold things, and I had the nerve damage in my hands and everything like that. And it took its toll on me. And so, we can hit the next slide. So, well, I went too far. But anyways, after I'm dealing with all these issues, these old man illnesses that I like to call them old man illnesses, I was like, man, this can't be right. I'm 23 years old. I'm in the NFL. And I'm supposed to be a pillar of health. I got all these people looking at me as an athlete and, oh man, I want to be like you, but I'm taking high blood pressure medication. So I realized, so I was like, man, something's got to change. And my wife at the time, she was vegan, and she had, been always in like, you got to go vegan, you got to eat, just eat some more vegetables and try and go vegan. I'm like, nah, like, I'm going to lose my job. Like, I need to stay 300 pounds. Like, I need to stay big. I need to stay strong. And after she kept like putting it in my ear. And after a while, one time, I was watching a documentary, Forks Over Knives. It was movie night going into Valentine's Day, and she picked the movie Forks Over Knives, and we watched it. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And watching the movie, there's so much information, and the part that really caught my attention was, they came to the part where they were talking about dairy products and how the effect that dairy products have on your body. And as soon as you take in dairy products, or really any animal products, it sends your body into an instant state of inflammation. And then and I told you earlier that I was dealing with tendinitis. And when you break down the word tendinitis, tendon means joint, and itis is Latin for inflammation. So, my tendinitis was so bad to the point that I was taking Celebrex and anti-inflammatories just to get rid of the pain, just to mask the pain, and sort of, and the anti-inflammatories to ease the inflammation. And once again, I'm only 23 years old on this long list of medications: anti-inflammatories, painkillers, high blood pressure medication. And after watching the documentary, I was like, wow, I'm causing all of my old man illnesses, all of these things that can ruin my career, that can shorten my life. And so at that moment, I just started, I was intrigued, and I started doing more research, and like what am I eating, and how can I change this? And I immediately at that point went and just emptied everything, all the meat out of my refrigerator, all the milk, poured it down the drain, and I just started doing plant-based. And I didn't know what I was like, how I was gonna do it. Like, I was like everybody else, like, well, most people, like, where am I gonna get my protein from when you go vegan? Because they think, for some reason, not for some reason, like she was saying, marketing, they brainwash us to believe that meat and dairy are the only sources of protein. But look at the largest animals in the world: elephants, cows, gorillas, rhinos, even the largest dinosaurs are all plant-based. It's like, where do they get their protein from? And that was my mindset, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get my protein from the same place that they get their protein from. And so now we're on here. And and it just really, I just started doing my own research, and I got a lot of kickback from people like, oh, like, how are you going to do this? Like, you're going to ruin your career, you're going to lose a lot of weight, you're going to get sick, you're going to die, all this kind of stuff, right? And then I was like, I just went on and did it, and I ended up losing. The first month I went vegan, I lost 40 pounds in the first month, and after that first month, I was off my high blood pressure medication and all that stuff. And then, I needed to gain my weight back, because when you're playing defensive line in the NFL, they have this thing called the eye test, where you have to look 300 pounds and you have to be 300 pounds. Because if you're not, or at the position that I was in, if you're not, they'll fine you $500 a pound for being for underweight or overweight. But so I had to get my weight back up, and I went to this, and I just started eating more, all this plant-based food, and I started eating every 2 hours, and I eventually got my weight back up to 317 pounds on all plant-based diet, and I was super big and ripped, and and on all vegan food, and went back and played in the NFL again at 317 pounds. And so that's how I got the name 300-pound vegan. But so what? Can you go back a slide, bro? So So, you know, and why I had this long list of why I went plant-based is because, you know, I was listening to my team doctors and they gave me this long list of medications to take, the anti-inflammatories, painkillers, and all that stuff. And it got me thinking, like, wow, you know, I went plant-based and literally just eradicated all of those things that I was dealing with. And it got me to thinking, like, you know, what are these doctors telling me? And I started doing my research, and these team doctors are exactly that. They're team doctors. You know, they work for the team. Their job is to get the players out there any way that they can. You know, like drug them up. Like, you guys know the history of football. They used to make these guys take steroids or whatever, get them back out there on the field as quick as they can. And that's what these team doctors do. And then now you can go to the next slide. And the doctors, a lot of the doctors that are in the regular hospitals are the exact same. You know, they tell you, you know, for example, doctors go to school for the better part of 10 years and they get less than 4 hours of nutrition study. So how is it a doctor is supposed to be the person that we run to when we have health issues, but they have no idea, they have no knowledge when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to the food that your cells are made out of. You know, the food that, you know, like she said, you are what you eat. But doctors don't have any knowledge of that. Their job is a lot of their jobs is to just give you drugs and to get you on your way. You know, you go see a doctor and you go get a checkup and you're in there for 15 minutes. You can't even check a car and see what's wrong with it in 15 minutes. You know, why are you gonna check up somebody's human body and diagnose them with something? You know, they're just out there giving out drugs. So next slide, bro. And and one of the things that I noticed is that, like, you know, we're suffering from all these heart in football. The average age of death in football is the average age of death for football players is 53 to 57 years of age, and that's crazy. Like I was telling you, football players are supposed to be pillars of health, but we're dying at 53 to 57 years old of heart disease, stroke, diabetes. Football players, when they're done playing football, while they're playing football, they're running all day, working out 4 hours a day, eating crazy. I remember after football practice, we would get in the car and be like, "Oh man, let's go get some food. All right, let's eat healthy today, bro. Okay, let's go get 4 double-doubles this time. Let's not go to Jack in the Box this time." That's what you guys don't know what In-N-Out is. That's like the healthy hamburger spot, or it's like a Chick-fil-A, right? You guys have Chick-fil-A? That's like the Chick-fil-A in California. That's where I'm from, or Arizona, or whatever. So, and these things, you know, and we're suffering, and that's what I'm saying is that, like, you know, I lost my spot. Sorry. So, anyways, the football players are suffering and dying from these food-related illnesses like cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and all of these things at early ages. I had a friend, his name was Q. And I played with him in Arizona. He's 33 years old, and you know, he was 33 years old, and he moved after he retired. He moved to the Bahamas with his wife and his 2 children, and had passed away in his sleep. And he was very thin, very in shape. He had abs and everything like that. And then when he went to move to the Bahamas and retired, he continued his eating habits like he was playing in the NFL, but he wasn't working out like he was before. He didn't continue the working out like he used to. So he adopted a sedentary lifestyle, and then he, you know, gained a little weight. And I always told him, like, bro, you don't eat right. You don't eat right. You gotta stop eating. Every time I saw him, he had a bag of Skittles or a bag of chips in his hand. And then we went to the Bahamas, and I was actually giving a presentation at the time, and my boy hit me up. It was like the 3 of us. We used to hang out tough. My boy hit me up, we're on stage, and he's like, yo, you know, hey man, Q, he just died in his sleep of a heart attack, of a massive heart attack at 33 years of age. And it's crazy, and it's all because of the food they were eating. And this right here is the CDC's top 10 list of killers in the world, and it's accompanied by, you know, suicides and murder and all, I mean, like, you know, and all kind of stuff. But you see that in this list is cancer, chronic cancer and stroke and diabetes and heart disease are on the top 10 list of killers in the world, right? And these are all food-related illnesses, and these are illnesses and diseases that the people of color are the #1 people dying from these food-related illnesses. Can you go to the next slide, bro? And then we have to break down one of the things I like to do is I like to break down the word, break down words. Like, for example, like I did with you earlier, tendinitis. Tendon means joint, and itis means tendon, is inflammation. We have to break down the word disease, right? Because your body can't function with ease. The tendinitis, like my joints were hurting because there was inflammation in my joints, and it was hard for it when you say, for instance, you put sand in a door jamb or whatever, in the whatever of the door. The door is not going to turn right. It's not. That's how your joint is. Your joint is not functioning with ease. And same thing with heart disease. Can you go to the next one, bro? Same thing with heart disease. If your heart is just a muscle, right? And just like anything else, if you're pumping, you take a 5-pound weight, just a 5-pound weight, and you're going like this, and you just keep going, you keep going. After a while, your arm, your bicep, which is just a muscle, is going to wear out. It's going to get tired. And that's exactly what your heart does. When you have fat surrounding your heart is just a muscle. It's like a bunch of rubber bands constricting your heart, and it's making it hard for your heart to pump blood through the rest of your body with ease. When you have cholesterol, which you said is only found in animal products, our body and man-made oils like Crisco, which is conveniently found in the hood, then the cholesterol clogs your arteries, and then it makes it hard for your heart to pump blood through the rest of your body with ease. Once again, heart dis-ease. So a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with defines itself, and as it says up here, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. We're eating, a lot of people are like, I'm trying to lose weight. And it's like, we're eating all of this fat. I tell people all the time, it's like when you eat a plant-based diet, you get to control how much fat you're putting into your diet. You get to put the avocado in, that's healthy fat. If you put oils in your food, then that's fat too. It's not necessarily healthy fat, but it's fat. But you get to control and actually put the ingredients of how much fat you want in there. But when you're eating animal products, you're like cutting the fat off the chicken to make it leaner and all of that stuff, or the steak and make it leaner, but there's still fat in the meat. A lot of people don't know that it's like, you eat a drumstick, a fried chicken drumstick, there's the saturated fat in that fried chicken drumstick is equivalent to eating a stick of butter. And so, next time you eat a piece of chicken, remember that. Next slide, bro. I'm gonna skip this because she already hit it. The atherosclerosis and heart disease and all that stuff. Your arteries get clogged. That's erectile dysfunction. She hit that too, but don't slide. Don't slip yet. But like she said, it's the smallest artery. The one going to the reproductive organs is the smallest artery in the human body. Now, when you take a look at these biodilatators, or you got Viagra and Cialis, these medications are called biodilatators, and all they do is they expand. When you take them, they expand the artery and allowing blood to flow through the organs, right? And how this happened, how they came up with these biodilators, or these Viagra and Cialis. They were originally heart medications, and they were made for heart patients. But then they started doing the trials, and when they were giving the people medication, they started walking around, at full attention, and they were like, oh, well, we're gonna sell this. So, and that's what happened. And that's how we have these Viagra's today. And that's why, after you take it, and 4 hours later, then, you just, and it's right back there again. You may as well just eat healthy and solve that the right way. Next slide. I'm just keeping it real, John. I'm just saying, I'm trying to save somebody's marriage out here. But, so another thing is right here too, we have the saturated fat I was telling you, but also these processed meats are class 1 carcinogens according to the World Health Organization. And 3 hot dogs is equivalent to smoking a pack of cigarettes. So please remember this. I know you're feeding your babies these hot dogs, these little fried hot dogs. Don't do that. You may as well give your child a pack of Marlboro Lights and send them off to school, and that's for real. Like, you think I'm playing, that's for real. And so, next slide. And like I was saying, the saturated fat and all of the stuff, all the food, the processed meats that we're eating is putting us in this position now. Like 1 in 3 children are overweight and diabetic. 1 in 3 adults are considered obese, and that's probably, these numbers are older, so there's probably way more now. A lot of us, we associate diabetes with the sugars, and yeah, sugar does play a role in it, but mainly it's really a lot of saturated fat that goes down. You eat the saturated fat and it goes down to your pancreas where insulin is made via the beta cells, and the saturated fat goes down to those beta cells like a heat-seeking missile and chokes the beta cells, and then it prevents your body from making insulin and balancing out your blood sugar levels. So really, it's a lot of the saturated fat is what's choking out and smothering your beta cells and your insulin makers. Hit that next slide, bro. Okay, so now to the oppression in the food system. I had a hard, thank you. You just ruined my whole thing. But that was great. That was awesome. But so what is food oppression? Food oppression is basically using a food system the structured food system to separate race and class and health-based. I'm gonna read it. Structural perpetuation of race and class based on health crises implemented through targeted marketing, infiltration into schools, government subsidies, and federal food policies. And I'm gonna break that down further for you and how they do it. And it's crazy. And you guys see it every day, but you don't notice it because we live in it. We've been living in it for so long, so it's like, this is just what it is. But I'm gonna break it down for y'all right quick. Can you hit that next slide, bro? All right, so are you guys familiar with the term food desert? Well, for those of you who are not familiar with the term food desert is when there are no grocery stores or healthy food options within, it's like a 1.5 to 3 mile radius, and then you're surrounded by fast food restaurants and liquor stores, gun stores, and all that stuff. It's the hood. That's what it is, right? And this is these photos right here at the bottom. I don't know if you can see them. I went to Baltimore. I did this presentation in Baltimore and found out some really good history. I'm gonna tell you about it later. But these are grocery stores in the hood, right? I walked around and I just took my cell phone and I walked into bodegas and the little stores they had in Baltimore. And this right here, this is a shoe rack, but this is the fruit section, right? And then you go here, and I went to the other store, and that's like a deep freezer that was converted into the fruit section, and it was horrible. It was a horrible display of, there's no healthy foods there. And then you have all the processed foods that were just displayed out, and it was awful. But then you see this right here, and this is the grocery store in a more affluent area, like a Whole Foods or something like that, or I don't know what the stores are out here. But it's a beautiful display of fresh fruits and vegetables that are, that you just don't see that in the hood. And that's what is a food desert. That's what a food desert is. I'm gonna break it down even more though. Can you hit the next slide, bro? So these food deserts that we like to call them food deserts, but they're not really food deserts. I like to consider them, they're really called systematically underserved areas because they don't serve these areas on purpose. The term desert is something that God made. Like there's no water there. It's not raining right there. God made that happen. But these food deserts, somebody plotted these out. This is geographical planning, mapping and all of that stuff. They said, what, we're not gonna put a grocery store in this stuff, but we're gonna put it over here where these white folks is at. And so that's what. But it all started in 1910. Well, actually, I'm sure you guys are aware of Jim Crow laws, blacks only, whites only restrooms, and all that. They separated housing. It was a social reform tool to use this for segregation and whatnot. And, no dogs, no Negroes, no Mexicans, right? And you get the next slide, bro? Okay, so we almost say that for a second, but the zoning, so it all started at the Jim Crow laws and there's a separation, but what we have now, they're called zoning laws, red zoning laws. But the red zoning laws stemmed from the Jim Crow laws, the racist Jim Crow laws, and in 1910, these what they're called now are red zoning laws, and they used to separate housing, and it's like redlining. Redlining is for housing, red zoning is for food, and they were originally called Negro zoning laws in 1910, right? And it actually started over here at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and it was used to as like I said, a social reform tool to separate the people of color from the white people, and separate them by separating housing and food and everything like that, and keeping that separation. And so that was in 1910. It was called the Negro zoning laws. In 1917, they deemed it unconstitutional, and they renamed it. That's all they did was rename it like they were really changing it, and they changed it to racial zoning laws. And in 1930, they changed it again because they were like, oh, that's a racist name, you know, racial zoning laws, Negro zoning laws, we got to change it. And they changed it to red zoning laws. But they never actually changed anything about the law itself. They just changed the name and they painted a little bit, made it look pretty. Some of the subtext where it said black, Asian, Native American, Mexican, they substituted that with the word blight, which means infestation, mildew, and mold. So they're referring to people of color as infestation, mildew, and mold. And this system was used to separate us because they felt like we were an infection, like the riffraff. So they wanted to keep that out of their more affluent areas. And another thing, what they did too, is that the ordinance operating like a tier system. So tier 1 would be Johns Hopkins, where they don't have any fast food restaurants in the area. You know, they have healthy hosts. Like fast food is something, basically McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, stuff where they microwave the food that's already pre-ready and they just pop it in the microwave or boil it or whatever in a plastic bag to heat it up and then put it on a bun and serve it to you. That's what the fast food is, right? But like Chipotle doesn't necessarily count as fast food because they actually cooked the food there, you know, all that stuff. So, So anyway, so tier 1 is where they have no fast food restaurants. Tier 2 is when they have 2 or 3 fast food restaurants. Tier 3 is when they have 4 or like 6 or something like that fast food restaurants. And tier 4 is where you have unlimited fast food restaurants. And that's when you go into the hood and you see like Burger King, McDonald's, KFC, and Church's Chicken all on one corner and just totally flooding our communities and these communities of color. And I'm gonna break it down to y'all more. The next slide, bro. So there goes some like where the Negro zoning laws were passed. There's a newspaper article showing how the Negro zoning law. You guys can look it up. It's insane. Next slide, bro. And so it goes deeper. Like these are just the old laws that are in place. Hello? Okay. These are just the old laws that are in place, but corporations take advantage of these laws, and they, like McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, I'm explaining to you how they do that, and they tailor their marketing to these ordinances as well. So what I'm going to break down to you guys what targeted marketing is and how fast food is targeting our youth of color and why. It's interesting. So one, they view teens of colors as trendsetters. That's why, you know, they have all these women out here, they're doing twerk classes now, trying to learn how to twerk. And they got doing butt shots and lip injections and box braids, like you know, and appropriating the culture. Because, you know, everything, all of the hip hop and all of the dance music, all of that stuff, fashion, it's all appropriated from our culture. And okay, so tremendous band ambassadors. Okay, so like I said, our cultures are the ones that are appropriated, and so they want us to adopt their brands and adopt like Sprite and Pepsi and Milk. Milk does a body good. You see, they always got, you know, the black artists up there, and you know, with a milk mustache on. And I'm gonna explain to you why that don't make no sense later. Exploiting celebrities of color, targeted marketing, and zoning laws. Can you get the next slide, bro? So this right here, this is an example of just your basic general marketing. You know, there's really like that's the Colonel Sanders guy, but he's like their mascot, right? And then you just have like, you know, there's nothing on there, there's no images or anything like that. There's no appropriation of culture or anything like that in these marketing. And then you go to the next slide, bro. But when these organizations, McDonald's, Burger King, these fast food restaurants, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, all these companies, they make a killing, literally and figuratively, for marketing to people of color. So you have Pepsi-Cola announced in 2015 in the Yale-Rudd study, that 86% of the company growth from the year 2015 to the year 2020 is going to, in their income, I'm sorry, not just in company growth, but their income is going to come from advertising to youth of color. And some of the examples that they have is they have the McDonald's PLC websites specifically for people of color. So they have the My Inspiration, right? And that's racist. And they just put every day they put a new person of color, a new Asian person on there to represent their brand and to represent and say like, oh, McDonald's has been good to me this way. Mayan Contact, that's for the Spanish-speaking population, and 365 Black. And if 365 Black is what it is, they put every day of the year, they put a new black person up there. And I was looking on there one time, they had Keith Sweat on there talking about chicken nuggets have changed my life. And I'm like, come on, bro. Get out of here with that, bro. Like, he real desperate. He ain't made a song in so long. He's having a hard time. All right. But another thing that they do is that they sponsor our events. Like they sponsor the BET Awards. And McDonald's sponsors every single black event that is out there. The BET Awards, the gospel tours. They have no nothing. They're sponsoring gospel and religious events. You have no limits. And then you have the HBCU tours and all the classic, like the drum line, all of these things. They sponsor all of these events because they want to put their product in our face and sell it to our demographic, sell it to our population, our youth, our babies, and killing them. And then one of the things that is important about this is that they're marketing to our people, and like I said, and it's working because 86% of their profit from the year 2015 to the year 2020 is coming from marketing to us. And not to mention, I'm telling you about food deserts or these systematically underserved areas. It only makes sense for them to do that. They're taking full advantage of these racial zoning laws, in which legally locks them into only putting their brick and mortars in our communities, right? And then their marketing is tailored to our communities because we're all their restaurants, because legally they can't put their restaurants in the white communities because the food is so bad and unhealthy. There's so many studies that prove that living in a food desert, living in an area that is just inundated with fast food restaurants, you live a shorter life. Like you 20 years, you die 20 years sooner than someone who lives in a more affluent area where there's a lot more no fast food restaurants or anything like that. Next slide, bro. And here go the examples of here goes the 365 Black website right here, and then you got the Popeyes chicken, and they got the whole choir behind it. Love that chicken from Popeyes. They don't care. They don't care. They're trying to get us any way they can. They got Nelly on here with a milk mustache. He's probably lactose intolerant. Can't even drink it. And then here goes Sprite. They're appropriating our hip hop culture. They got this young man over here DJing with Sprite cans and whatnot. This is what I'm talking about. Appropriation of the culture and using us as branding ambassadors to further to make more money for them and to pick up their brand. Next slide, bro. And it goes deeper. And they're very tactical with their ways. So, and there's studies that show that we watch on our channels, for example, Telemundo or BET. 86% of our commercials are fast food commercials or pharmaceutical commercials, like a Pfizer commercial or something. Because and you have to think about it. These people are marketing. These are corporations. They spend millions, if not billions of dollars on marketing, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars on marketing, because they need to get their product to us. They need to sell it to us. How are they going to get it if we don't know about it, right? And they're like I said, 86% of their commercials are targeting us, and not only that, the location of their venues and all of these things are targeting communities of color. You get that next slide, bro? And why this doesn't make sense is, this is why it's oppression in the food system. This is a study by Dr. Milton Mills of the Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine, and it shows that people of color are pretty much 75 to 100% lactose intolerant, which means you can't digest milk, you don't have enzymes. Most of us don't have the enzymes after the age of 4 anyway. We're not supposed to be drinking the milk of a cow, who grows to be is anybody in here trying to be 2,000 pounds? No? The milk of a cow is made for a baby calf, a calf, to grow from a calf to be a full-grown cow. And nobody in here is trying to be 2,000 pounds, but we still drinking milk and eating, that don't even make sense, right? So, but people of color, and not to mention and like I said, people of color are 75 to 100% lactose intolerant, and we have, but these fast food restaurants, who are the #1 purchaser of animal products in the world, and not to mention McDonald's is the #1 purchaser of cow eyeballs, and you have to ask yourself, what are they making with cow eyeballs, right? right? Yeah, next time I eat a chicken nugget, it ain't all chicken. It ain't all chicken. All right, but you get that next slide, bro. And so, like, when you are talking about diabetes, we're talking about lactose intolerant and people of color. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I missed the thing. Go back, because you mentioned it earlier. So, on this same study, it also shows that 75% or to 100% of people of color are lactose intolerant. But then when you go to the opposite end of the scale, and you see right here, British, German, Australian, they're only 5 to 15% lactose intolerant. And now you can hit that next slide. And then, like, you see Mexico, before, like, 70% of Mexico, I think the slides are a little bit messed up. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. Next one. All right. Before Christopher Columbus came into the Americas, before he came down here on his little boat, there were no cows, there were no pigs, there were no chickens here in the Americas, right? So that means there was no milk, no cheese, no eggs, no butter. None of these things that we all eat today. None of these things that like when you think about Mexican food, one of the things you always think of now is cheese and sour cream. That wasn't even part of the culture. I was in Mexico doing a presentation in Mayan country, and they showed me how to make the tortilla shells and everything. And they told me they were like the original tacos didn't have meat. It didn't even have meat in them. They didn't have no sour cream or no cheese in them for sure. You know, they had potatoes and peppers in it, and that was it. And that was, and they were flavored with whatever. But our food system has been completely colonized. Because, Columbus came down here and colonized lands. And when you colonize the lands, you bring three things. You bring your culture, you bring your religion, and you bring food. And that's what he did. And, it really has changed our food system. And it's the same thing. You can go to the next slide, bro. Soul food. Been killing black folks since forever, 1620. It's originally slave food, Like, that's how we got it. We got the leftovers. Before slavery, people of color, black people, we didn't eat, meat like that. Meat was, if we did eat meat, it was sparingly, And, but when we were enslaved, we got the leftovers of everything. You got the nose, the pig's feet, the chitlins. Like, would you eat that? Like, would you go, if you went to go kill a pig or a cow or something, would you just, I'm gonna take the chitlin, I'm gonna take the intestines and I'm gonna clean the poop out and I'm gonna eat that. You wouldn't do that. And it smells so bad. Y'all know it smells bad. Okay, I'm gonna move on. But these are the leftovers that we got, and we got stuck with them, and we made them taste good because that's what we do. We make things better. We get the leftovers and we make them taste. We make them better, right? And we salted them, and we deep fried everything, and we cooked the mess out of it to make it tender and all that stuff. And because it turned out to be so good, we adopted it. We made it a tradition. But not all traditions are good traditions because slavery was a tradition, right? So should we keep that up too? No, not at all. All right, next slide. And then, and this is another study right here, just to add on to the whole thing. People of color shouldn't be eating animal products, in my opinion, and many doctors' opinion, and all that. But there's a China study that shows that, and this is the biggest comprehensive study about eating plant-based. The man is that they went to China and they did studies for the different provinces, and the southern provinces were the ones that didn't eat all the animal products. They were still doing their cultural diet, which was pretty much vegan. But then in the northern parts of China, that's where the Western diet started taking over and all that stuff, and they started eating meat. That's another thing. It's the Western diet, hence why they call all these things Western diseases. So you guys gotta put the words together. But this is a great study for you to look at, and it shows you just like, we're not supposed to be eating that. This is a perfect study to show we're not supposed to be eating plant-based. We're supposed to be eating plant-based and not eating not eating animal products, because people who eat animal products are the ones that come down with these Western illnesses, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, all of these things. And they also showed that, the people who were eating a more plant-based diet were not obese, but when you go over to the northern parts of China, then a lot of those people were becoming obese. Next slide, bro. And so, like I said, 75% of the world population is lactose intolerant. So technically, it's not lactose intolerant. It's, it should be called, lactose normal. where it's normal to not be able to digest milk after 4 years old, or I forget if the right age, I believe it's 4 years old. And so it should be lactose normal, because like I showed you on that list, all those people of color can't digest milk, a large percentage of them. I'm sure if I say, hey, who's lactose intolerant in here, I'm sure a whole bunch of y'all are gonna raise your hand, you know? And so it should be normal. A lot of the wording has been misconstrued, because like Doc was saying earlier, this system wasn't made for us. And like I'm showing you guys right now, you know, our food system was created from Jim Crow laws. So it wasn't made for us, it was made to oppress us, made to restrict us from growing and being healthy and strong like we were. You know, in slavery times, we were the strongest people out there. You know, that's why they had us out in the fields picking cotton 17 hours a day, you know, just getting the hot in the cot, get back up and do it again, same thing in the morning, you know, because we were strong. They were out there buying us because we were strong and all that stuff. But now, you know, it's 2017, they wouldn't buy us for nothing because we're all sick and we're all unhealthy, you know, like, think about it. Like, they're betting on us to die. And if you ask me, that's population control right there, because, you know, like, we're the #1 people dying of heart disease, stroke, diabetes. And like I showed you, these things on the CDC's top 10 list of killers, the Center for Disease Control, and that was accompanied with suicide and a whole bunch of other randomness. Those are the top killers in the world. And us, people of color, are the #1 people dying of all of these things. And it's because of, they like to say, oh, well, you guys are you know, you guys are high blood pressure. You guys are, you know, you guys get diabetes easy. They just make up stuff. But that wasn't the issue when we came in here. You know, like, we were the strongest ones out there. That's why we could live and live in the sun and work all day. And so, next slide, bro. And so, don't let these clowns kill you with this food, you know, because that's what's happening. You know, we're eating this food and we're like, I understand we're all in survival mode out here. This is part of the plan. They price us into the bad food and price us out of the good food. Why is it that meat is being subsidized, and it's cheaper? You can go buy a hamburger for $1 and you know, go hit up the dollar menu and feed your whole family for $10 with meat and cheese and eggs and all of this mess, but we can't get no fruits and vegetables. You know, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take anything to grow some vegetables. You put the seed in the ground, you water it, boom, it grows. But when you're making meat, you gotta feed the cow, you gotta water the cow, you gotta clean up after the cow, you gotta cut and process and break down and transport the dead meat, you gotta keep it frozen or cold or whatever. And so you're telling me that a hamburger, after all of that whole process of doing that, it is cheaper than an apple or bell pepper or a carrot or anything like that? Like, something's wrong. This is the system of oppression that is still in place today that hasn't been switched, because these companies are profiting from it. The McDonald's profiting from it. 85%, they're one of the most, they're booming. You know, they're making more money. They're a huge company, and they're making all of that money off of selling their product to us. And so, you know, and it's not, and it's blatant, it's in our face, but we can't see, we haven't been able to see it because we've been, you know, we've just been living in it and we don't notice it. But now, I hope when y'all leave here today, y'all notice it. It don't take much. All you gotta do is hop in your car and drive from the hood to where the white folks live, or the more affluent areas, and you can see for yourself. Like, why don't you have a great grocery store in your community? Why do you have to drive all the way down there to go get some good food? You know, just to eat. The next slide. And then a lot of people ask me all the time, you know, like, because, you know, a lot of people, there was some confusion on what vegan is in here, you know, like, oh, I'm vegan, and I don't eat any animal products, because animal products send your body into an instant state of inflammation, and it doesn't allow your body, that's what, like, atherosclerosis is inflammation of the arteries, right? You know, inflammation of the like, all of these things that happen are inflammation in your body, and it doesn't allow your body to function with ease. So, but anyways, so I'm vegan, and these are some of the things that I eat, like nachos. This is what I started. When I went vegan, I converted my current menu, and I was a fat boy, right? So all of my food was vegan hamburgers, vegan nachos, vegan pizza, vegan taquitos, vegan all of this stuff. I just took the meat out and substituted with beans or wheat meat or something like that. And like I said, I lost 40 pounds in a month. and I was trying to gain weight, which was hard. I had to figure out how to restructure my diet and gain and put the weight back on. That's why it was just food. This is a vegan hamburger. It's bomb. We manipulate it when we're like, oh, what am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to eat? If I don't have no meat, what am I supposed to eat? What do you mean? You just switch it out. And then the meat isn't all the flavor. Like, what do you, like, if you cook a piece of chicken and you don't season it, what's that chicken gonna taste like? Nothing. Right. Exactly. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, what are seasonings? Seasonings are garlic, onions, peppers, all of these things, right? Cumin. These are all like vegetables and everything these are flavoring your foods. So that's where you get your flavor from. Next slide. And so I just want to say thank y'all for listening. With the thing that we need to do, the way that we need to spread this information and spread this knowledge, because the only way that we can get ahead of this is we have to educate each other. We have to tell each other about this. And when you're driving up and down the street, or when you have someone or one of your family members, tell them about the food system and how it's structured, and so they can tell the next person. Because the only way, they're not going to change nothing in the law. You can go. Look what we got in office, right? So we need to Joel Osteen this food law. Basically, what I'm saying is make a big deal out of it. Joel Osteen got shut down after he didn't let nobody in his church during that storm, and now he's like, I'm in trouble. We need to make a big hoopla about this food system, because we should not be living in a food system that was created from Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws, whites only, blacks only, but this is how our food is distributed, and this is determining the health of our population, the health of our people, and how we eat. And then, not to mention, these companies are profiting off of it, and like I said, making a killing off of it, literally and figuratively. These companies are making hundreds and millions, billions of dollars off of our health, off of killing us. So, thank you, and I appreciate it, and that's my speech for today. Thank you, and please,
you all, yeah. Okay, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Carter?
I just want to thank you for an outstanding presentation as a young man. And I didn't get, are you still playing football?
No, I'm retired now.
Okay, at 23, he's retired. Okay.
29 now.
I want to thank you for this presentation. It was very thorough. But some of what's happening to us is our own fault. We got at least 2 and 3 cars in our yard. We go anywhere we want to go as black people. And then when it comes to us taking control of what we need to take control of, then we don't. When I picked up this fat and I looked at my stomach, I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do about it? And so you have shared with us in a very special way today that some of what the system does, my mom used to say to us when we would go home and say, well, Mommy, can we go and do such and such? Because Joni and her family is doing it. And you know what they would say. So if Joni would go and jump off the bridge, would you go and jump off the bridge too? So my point is this. Some of what's happening to us is that some of us are not willing to take that extra step and do what we need to do. How many of us are too tired to cook? And so it's easy for me to pull into Chick-fil-A, get a package for everybody in my house, come and take it and lay it on the table, and then I'm going to complain that the man is not treating us good? What about when we used to cook? We used to go to the store and snap green beans and cook them and put them on the table. Some of our children don't even recognize a vegetable because we are too lazy to go and cook anymore. And so yes, you're right. They have put all of these convenient things in our neighborhood so that we can do things in a fast manner. We've got to move away from that. Many of us now are moving to doing a garden. I'd love to keep one going in my neighborhood, but I compete with the deer in my neighborhood, and it's really, really hard. But there are simple things that we can do. Simple things that we can do to make sure. You're right, our children do get bad food at the lunch counter, but we know how to fix a lunchbox for our children and put some good stuff in the lunchbox so they don't have to eat it. So some of this stuff, we've got to stop saying that there's no way out, because it really is a way out. But we've got to step up our game and be determined that we're going to do better as a family and as a people for our own children, because you're right when you say, don't nobody care about us. They really don't. You make a good point. And when I was struck by the fact that you did the China study. The China study says that they don't eat this stuff that they bring and put in our neighborhood. They give you a whole bunch of it for $5 when you go over there to the Chinese place. Don't they give you them big old wings? Give you more rice than you'll be able to eat in a week. So how do they do for us that they don't do for themselves? Some of this is our own undoing. We've got to do better. We must do better as a people. We cannot continue to not do what we need to do. We cannot continue to do what we are not doing in a lot of instances. And somebody said earlier, even in our churches, when we have events at church, at some point, do we have to have fried chicken every time we have an event? But it's just what we do. And when you talk about my great-great-grandmother, about her eating them chicken feet and eating those pig feet, I was a daughter of pig feet. I was a daughter because that's what my great-grandmother could afford. That's what she afforded. She kept the family going with some pig feet and some beans and things like that.
Pressed you in, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. I'm 70 years old. I'm 70 years old. Don't have high blood pressure. Don't take these white folk medicines, because I'm willing to get my tail up every morning, go walk somewhere, go do something for me, and not have to depend on them to rule my life. And so we got to get better about ruling our own lives. And the last thing I want to say is, when you go to the doctor, you need to have a conversation with your physician. They can't make you get out the doctor's office unless you want to get up and go out. If you ain't getting the 15 minutes, if you're not getting the 15 minutes with your doctor, something is wrong. And it ain't wrong with your doctor, it's wrong with you. If you take every pill that he gives you, if you take every medication that he gives to you, and you don't ask no questions about the side effect, then something is wrong with you. That's your health. This is your body. I just thank you so much for what you've done for us today. And all of the doctors and everybody that has come to talk about not just our physical health, but to talk about our mental health. Young woman, Sister Angela, talking about our mental health. All of this stuff works together. But we got to get up off our you-know-what, and we've got to be committed to doing something, because all the time, it ain't everybody else's fault.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, we'll take one more question. Does anyone have a question for Dr. Carter?
Can I respond to that?
I'm sorry. Mr. Carter?
Can I respond to that?
Oh, yes, go
All right,
ahead.
thank you. So, yes, I agree with you. We do have to get up off our butts and go. But at the same time, you have a car. You have 3 cars, you said, right?
No, I personally, but I'm saying most of us at least have one.
Okay, not necessarily true. A lot of people don't have cars and they can't get to the grocery store. They got to take buses to the grocery store. And then when you get on the bus, you can't come back on the bus with a whole bunch of groceries. You can only take 2 bags of groceries. Now, how are you supposed to feed your family on that? Now, you have cars and you're blessed to have cars, but we have to look at the big picture. Everybody don't have cars, but you are right. We do have to get off our butts, and we all have to come together, and we have to combat the system in that way, because individually we can't do it. And you're right, we have to do these farmers, we have to do these gardens and everything like that, because that's how we're going to get, because they're not going to bring the food to us, we got to bring the food to ourselves. And so, but yeah, I just want to let you know, because like I said earlier, a lot of people of color are in survival mode. You know, they're working 2-3 jobs. They got 2-3 kids, and they're just trying to make it work, just trying to keep the lights on. you might be you appear to be in a better situation than most. You know, a lot of people probably in this room can't afford to have a car and are taking the bus everywhere or carpooling or something like that. So we have to take some things like that into consideration. And so.
All right, my name is AJ Hunter. Excellent presentation, appreciate everything. We talked even before. One of the questions that I had was, what are some of the recipes or some of the things that you eat on a regular basis that we all could, probably benefit from?
So one of the things that I eat on a regular basis, I always do like a smoothie, whole fruit smoothie in the morning, oatmeal. A lot of people, all right, so there was a lot of people are like, oh, what do you eat to get muscle or to get protein? Protein is in absolutely everything that grows under the sun. Protein is made via the process of photosynthesis, where the sun comes down, shines light on the plants, and amino acids are made through chlorophyll, and that's all protein is a combination of amino acids, 22 amino acids, right? And so that's where they come from. Hence, that's why the largest animals in the world are plant-based: gorillas, cows, elephants, so on and so forth. So, I eat everything like broccoli, like 8 ounces of broccoli has more protein than 8 ounces of steak. A lot of people don't know that. Or a handful of nuts has more protein than a steak. And then, not to mention, eating a handful of nuts is equivalent to running 2 hours, because it just helps you to shed the body fat. It helps to speed up your metabolism. Rice and beans. I do a lot of rice and beans. Rice and beans together are complete protein. You add them together and it's a complete protein, and it's high in carbs and high in calories, healthy carbs and healthy calories, not these empty carbohydrates and these empty calories that you get from, these Hungry Man meals or whatever, these processed meals that are out there. Let's see. I make my own cheeses. I don't know if you ever heard of nutritional yeast. Like, I make nut cheeses. I take nuts and I put them in a blender and I mix it with nutritional yeast and a little onion, garlic, and some cumin, and it tastes just like queso. It tastes like cheese, and it's the best thing. I eat it every day. The list goes on and on. Like I told you, like these hamburgers that I showed you. You can make a quinoa burger or a bean burger. That was the first thing I ate when I went vegan, was a black bean burger. I just took a bunch of beans and mushed them together and put them in the skillet, and, like a hamburger patty. Boom, put it on the bun, and it was good. And that's like 25 grams of protein, 30 grams of protein, depending on what you got on there. And you just have to keep it up and just try and do as much fruits and vegetables as you can. I like to watch the Food Network and then take the stuff that they're making and switch it up and make it vegan. Just get really creative with it. And like we did it before with soul food, so why can't we do it now? And so I guess, is that one more question, or is that good? Yeah. All right, thank you all. I appreciate it.
To say, praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Because God wanted us to hear this. And one day, I'm going to tell you how I happened to meet him, happened to see him, and how God put it all together. So whoever is here, God wanted you to know this. A young man at 23 years old, understand? And he got himself together. And now he's going around educating his people. Give him a hand. And before I present these awards, everybody now is coming out of the closet about something. And so I've been mistreated and beat up and everything, but now I'm really going to come out of the closet. I'm a vegan. And I just keep a low profile about it. But now I'm getting myself a website, and it's going to be Grandma Vegan. Okay. I'm not hiding anymore. Okay, so we want to give some awards. And the first award we want to give is to Mr. David Carter. It's called the Special Health Outreach Award, presented to Mr. David Carter for outstanding commitment and contribution in health education, innovation, client
care, support, and outreach in Prince George's County, Maryland, and beyond. For today, we thank you for coming.
Got it.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Now, this pastor, Dr. Michael Hall, has gone all out, full pledge in the health movement. And for that, let's give him a round of applause. And I want to give you this award, Dr. Hall. And this is called the Community Health Outreach Award, presented to Dr. Michael Hall for outstanding commitment and contributions in health education and outreach in Prince George's County, Maryland, and beyond.
Can we do a hug first and then we'll photo op? Turn it around? All right. She's always giving me instructions. Where are we supposed to be looking?
The next award is to Trina E. Frazier, who works for the health department in Prince George's County. She's over the chronic disease. She's over chronic disease, and she has a passion. She works far above what they pay her for, and she's just, I remember when she first started and I was out still doing this kind of thing, and I went to her and she's been very helpful. And so I'm giving you the Health Pace Setter Award, and presented to you, Trina E. Frazier, for outstanding commitment and contributions in health education, innovation, client care, support, and outreach in Prince George's County, Maryland, and beyond.
I just have to say thank you. She's right. When I first started at the health department, Dr. Gertie was one of the first passionate people that came up there and said, you know, we got to do something. And we all know about limited resources, so we try to do a lot, you know, with a little, but we couldn't do it without community members and passionate groups that really know that it takes a village to move our communities to a healthier lifestyle. So I just thank you all for all you do. I kind of feel like I should give it back because what you all do, you know, it is my, it's my paid job, but she's right. Even if I wasn't paid, this is the work that I love to do. So thank you.
Miss Angel Hansford is a member of New Beginnings AME Church.
AME?
Excuse me. But we want to adopt you. Okay. New Beginnings Community Church, non-denominational, which is next door to the pastor's of Dr. Michael Hall.
And here.
Okay. So what it is with her is she's been a very dedicated member of the health forum classes. She's come to our exercise swimming classes, and a couple of times she came, she didn't really feel well. She was actually, I found out that she was actually laid back in her van, but she had brought her daughter because she wanted to make sure somebody participated in the Zoom class. She's done, she's made most of the sessions, she's lost weight, and she started off being a vegetarian. She told me a few weeks ago that she's now turning vegan. So this is the Health Hero Award presented to Ms. Angel Hensley for outstanding commitment in making important lifestyle changes in your health behavior in order to reduce your risk of chronic disease. because he did a lot in DC and he's been supportive of what we've been doing. He arranged for the parking ministry that we had going today. And I want to thank all the speakers for everything that you said and did. I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank all the volunteers, all the vendors, exhibitors, and screeners. And I want to thank the board members for their participation and the staff. And I do want to, while I have the mic, as they always say, let me go to the speak out. Well, I have the mic. On October the 29th at 10 a.m., I'll be bringing the word for the Women's Day service, worship service at New Beginnings Community Church. So I'm passing out the invitation to you. Please come and support me. Amen? Amen. And then we're also going to be starting something. We're going to keep in touch with you when you can sign up. See Shannon. Jordan about it. We want you to sign up for a continuation of this. We don't want it just to end today. So we're going to want you to attend the monthly Health Forum classes. And then after you've taken a number of the classes, then you'll be entered into a drawing. We're going to take your BMI beforehand and check on you and all of that. And we'll have things online for you to participate in. And then when you finish the course, you'll get a certificate. And we'll have a drawing for a $100 gift card from Panera Bread Company. Okay? And now I'm going to recognize someone else who's joined us in the health movement with her church, and that's Pastor Deborah Williams. Would you stand? Okay, those are my reflections. Remember, October 29th at 10 a.m., New Beginnings Community Church.
Okay, next we have reflections, closing prayer, and dismissal by Reverend Dr. Michael Hall.
Before we adjourn, I would like to have Dr. Hurley come back up just for a moment. We'd like to present her with a special love gift for her efforts. Ecclesiastes 4:9 says, 2 are better than one because you can have a good reward for your labor. In 2008, God gave me a powerful vision that New Beginnings would be a church where faith and fitness would converge for the glory of God. And I had a vision, and it was very broad. I wrote it down. It was to educate, it was to energize, and it was to encourage healthy lifestyle habits. We tried any number of things, and none of them were sustainable. But I continued to pray, and lo and behold, 3 years ago, God brought this angel into my life, into my ministry, and has brought it to what you see here today. This is our 3rd annual celebration of Wellness Day that Dr. Hurley has been doing through her nonprofit, Taking Effective Action, for 10 years. And so I just want to honor her with a token of love from my wife and I for her efforts, her untiring efforts, for the added motivation and passion that she's given me, and for the doors of opportunity that God has opened for us in this movement. And so we just want to present you with this token of love for all your efforts and all you've done and all you do tirelessly to advance healthy lifestyle habits in our community and here at New Beginnings Church. She's actually our director of our health ministry. And so we thank and praise God for her partnership and encouragement. She needs to say something else.
There are a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, is Yolanda English here? I need you to say, come up here a minute before you leave. And she's the one who gave us the grant in order to have this program where you could come free and hear all this good stuff.
Well, I just wanted to say I hope you guys join the bandwagon and become vegan like the rest of us and keep feeding your body medicine, because it is medicine, trust me. I just want to say that. Thank you for coming back.
is that we said that this was the 10th year that T has done this, but in 3 years working with Dr. Hall. So there's some people here who came to the very first health event that we had. Pastor Deborah Williams. Getting speechless. Pastor Deborah Williams is going to come up. We have a gift for you. Pat White will bring you yours. Margaret Cornegay is already here. Sister Reverend Etta now. She's back in the back with the books. Oh, she's back here. Okay. Come on. And we have a plant to give you, as well as Miss Daisy. Miss Daisy Madison. Please come up. They were the first official one that we did in 2007. So that's just a little token as a donation from Reverend Dr. Marie Braxton, who has another lavender, I think. I want to thank also Dr. Vicky, and I have to call her that name because her name is really long, and for coming out from the health department. Thank you. Let's give her a hand.
I think we're about ready to leave. This has been a glorious day. I just want to say this in closing before I give you the final benediction. In our country today, we have an increasing presence of health disparities, not only in our country, but in this county. And I just want you to know that I'm very proud to be a pastor in the movement for God, that we're going to take the lead on this in a way that we're going to promote health and wellness and try to do our part to reverse this health disparity in our country again and in our county. And so I pray that as we do this, that you would pray for us and pray with us, not only through the partnership with T taking effective action, but within our church, because we're establishing this as a culture, as part of our DNA. And you know, when you think about it, Hebrews 12:11 says, no discipline seems pleasant at the moment, but painful. But it also says, but later on, however, it'll produce a harvest of righteousness and peace in those who have been trained by it. In other words, you get the desired results when you put in the effort to effect the change. And I just ask you to continue to pray for us as we continue to do this. We thank and praise God for giving us this campus here with these 2 buildings, which we own. And we thank and praise God for what he's done, what he's doing, what he's yet going to do. And so to the New Beginnings family, all of you who volunteered, my wife for sure, I want to thank her. And I want to tell you men, you'll see these around, some of them in your bag. Beginning October 24th, we're going to be hosting a monthly mentoring men's studies series. It's going to be a certificate series. We're going to do it for 7 straight months. Anyone who attends 5 of the 7 will receive a certificate, because we're reaching out to disciple men. We have a mind to reach men and to disciple men to demonstrate progressive growth in their spiritual life. So we ask you to take one of these flyers and give them to a man in your life who you want to see him grow in Christ. And so, and brothers, I pray you might pick it up and join us. Let's look to the Lord to be dismissed. If you would stand as you're able to. Our Lord and our God, we give you thanks and praise for this blessed day. We thank you for what our eyes have seen, what our ears have heard, and what our hearts have felt and are feeling that glorifies you. Thank you for this movement, God, this movement of remembering that our bodies are the temple of your Holy Spirit, and we are to glorify you with our bodies. And Lord, so would you just remind us that all you're asking us to do is to do our best and then leave the rest to you. We all have various challenges, Lord. We're all not going to look the same and be the same. But Lord, would you give us a mind to commit our course to be stronger vessels in your service so we can maximize our impact in seeking the lost for you. Would you look past our faults, God, and see our needs? We thank you, Lord, for this occasion. We thank you for this movement. And as we leave this place, we are clear, God, we do not leave your presence. So guide us safely to our next destination, and after the sun sets tonight and all is done for this day, we pray that we will lie down in peace and sleep, knowing that you are a great and awesome God. It's the one who makes us dwell in safety. In Jesus' name we pray these things. Our hearts say amen. Somebody say praise God. Thank you for coming.